Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Quirk Chronicles. Today, we're diving into an epic crossover. What if Deku went to the 7 Deadly Sins universe after being bullied? Imagine Deku leaving behind the pain and rejection of his world, only to find himself in the magical land of Britannia. How would he grow surrounded by the legendary 7 Deadly Sins? Would he finally find the strength and family he's always longed for? This one's gonna be an emotional ride with some serious power-ups. Before we jump in, make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you're enjoying these crossovers. Alright, let's not waste any more time. Let's dive straight into the story. Life isn't fair. Men are not all created equal. Some people wear a mask to play pretend with you until you no longer serve any use to them and are thrown away like trash. This is a reality Izuku Midoriya had to grow up in. He grew up with a big birthmark in the shape of a dragon. The boy believed it was a sign that he was going to get a quirk, as nobody else he knows was seen with it, however. "You mean my son can't be a hero?" the green-haired woman said as she sat with her son. "I'm sorry, ma'am, as you can see." The doctor pointed at an X-ray of the boy's toe. "He has 2 joints in his pinky toe, which in turn means that his dream of becoming a hero is most likely impossible." The doctor was so nonchalant and calm about this. Did he not care for shattering this poor boy's dream? Well, it also made sense, as he must have done things like this before. He's probably used to it even. What about the birthmark on his arm? Does this not mean anything? Showing the boy's left arm with a dragon birthmark on it. The doctor scratched his chin. "I do not have an idea either, and plus, that doesn't look like a normal birthmark. This isn't the first thing I've seen that's so odd about your boy either. From what it looks like, he was born with more than one heart as well." How is that possible? I only ever heard a single heartbeat, not several. That's quite odd. Maybe we can book another appointment next year to check on that at all. Ever since that day, Izuku has had his dream of being a hero constantly shattered by not only the people around him but even his own mother. "I'm sorry, Izuku. I'm so sorry." She had repeated this to him at the boy's desk since he had wanted to be a hero like Endeavor, who was the #1 pro hero. However, all this would eventually be changed on a fateful day. In his 5th grade of school, Izuku's POV. "Hell no. We don't want to play with a quirkless nobody." That's what I have been met with for the last 6 to 7 years of my life. Nothing but those responses, and they haven't changed to this day. I rubbed my swollen eye as I had been beaten prior for trying to defend a kid for being bullied by others, and even then, I received no thanks for it. It hurt. It hurt a lot. Maybe they were right. I sniffled, rubbing the tears from my eye, catching my breath. Maybe I should just give up on my dream. I will never be a hero who can make people feel SA-. Yes, you can. I looked around. It almost felt like someone just talked to me somehow. It also looks like it came from the forest next to my school playground. I got up and looked around, seeing as nobody was looking. I mean, I'm sure nobody would mind if I slipped away into the forest for a bit. If it gets dangerous, I can just run. Out of curiosity, I went in and followed the voice as I walked. I walked along and passed a pond with frogs jumping on lily pads as I got further into the forest. It felt strange but also familiar, until I got to the source of familiarity. E53E277C5131D7A33B153BD5C2748E1D.jpg. It was a dragon handle in an old rock with many things carved into it. It looked old. Moss was practically written around the whole gosh darn thing. Like it's been around for longer than a century, if I had to assume, as best as I could. Despite all that, I felt my eyes focus, drawn to the handle in the middle of the stone, as maybe if I pulled it out, I would figure out the source if familiarity I had with it. Okay, time to pull. I tugged onto the handle as hard as I could, trying and struggling to pull it out. "See, come on. Get out of there," I groaned as I put all my might into one more pull and taking it out of the stone, falling back as I took a deep breath. Yes, I did it. I took it out. I deeply breathed in and out as I looked at it being hit by an unusual daze. Sure, I put a lot of energy into pulling it out, but this felt odd, though I was inclined to sleep anyways. I suddenly fell to the floor, panting as I held the handle in my hands. Maybe a good rest will do me good. I yawned, closing my eyes and going to sleep. Hey, Wake up or else you're gonna get dirty Izuku. That didn't sound like my voice. Wake up, kid. H-wa? Husit? Relax. It's just me. The unknown boy smiled at me as I looked at him. But I don't know who you are at all. He seemingly had just realized this as he awkwardly laughed and rubbed his head. Oh yeah, my bad. Allow me to introduce myself then. He pointed at himself, showing the birthmark, which was the exact same as my own. I'm Meliodas, the dragon sin of wrath. Nice to finally be meeting you, Izuku. This was so confusing. Huh? How do you know who I am? I don't even know the first thing about you. Are you here to haunt me or something? This struck a metaphoric arrow through him seemingly as he clutched his heart. Ouch. I might be here in spirit, but that doesn't automatically mean I'm here to haunt you, kid. Oh. Anyways, that aside, I'm here to fully awaken your abilities. Huh? What do you mean? I'm quirkless, I don't have any abilities dash. Well, that's not the whole truth. He put his hands in his pockets as he sat down, explaining it to me in full detail as I just sat there with him in my mind, discussing this whole thing. Wait, so let me get this straight. I was born a demon, but all of my hearts were in a sort of coma thing? Along with that, apparently my strength was also sealed and other stuff. Pretty much. I don't know how, but no worries. With my help, I can undo all of that and basically give you full access to what you should have and get moving forward. This was all so confusing? But wait. I thought demons were supposed to have horns, be all big and scary. Neither of us look anything like that. He laughed a bit, crossing his arms as he continued on. You know, that's just how people supposed we'd look. You'd probably be surprised if I told you that other races just looked like humans. You could perfectly blend in. Well, unless someone feels your other hearts. Other races? Yeah, there are other races besides just demons. There are fairies, giants, and goddesses too. Maybe even ones I don't know about. Well, that's cool. But why are you even here anyways? He smiled, patting my head gently. Because you're sort of a descendant of mine. Not by blood, but by power. I looked at him, tilting my head in confusion. I'm here to guide you on how to use my powers, silly. D1BA594C2694114FCC1D6 at 6E0D68.jpg. Now then, what do you say about becoming the greatest hero? Izuku. He held his hand out to me as I looked on. Somewhat unsure, but I took it anyways and shook it. Why yeah, I want to be the greatest hero. I immediately woke up after, still in the forest as I sighed. I guess that all was a dream. Huh. Oh, I'll just go then if I am just a dream dash. It wasn't a dream? He laughed. Nope. All real. I stood up, still having the handle in my hand. I don't feel all the different, I said, patting all around my body until I felt my chest, hearing not one, not two or three, but 7 whole hearts beating at once. Wah dash? I really do have 7 hearts. Before I could dwell on this any further, I heard the teacher yelling from the edge of the forest. I panicked as I frantically made it back to my teacher. Okay. As I ran out of the forest, don't run out on your own like that or I could get fired. I flailed my hands in front of myself. Sorry, it won't happen again. She grabbed my hand and walked me back inside as I looked at the sky thinking, things are going to get way more intense from here. It's been a few years since my first talk with Meliodas. I began to learn a lot about him and my new magic abilities. He had told me I had a limited amount of magic usage, but I could use way more efficiently and only the sins themselves can use them. There are also obviously 6 other sins, being greed, lust, gluttony, sloth, envy, and pride. I am the sin of wrath, so it isn't far off to say I might meet the other sins down the road. It also was a hard time explaining to my mom. I was a late bloomer, mom. Look what I can do. That is amazing, sweetie. I now am able to produce these oinks black flames from my hands or my sword handle. Speaking of which, I also used the broken handle, which was more useful than I let on, especially for another magic ability of mine being full counter. It allowed me to counter every magic attack back at the user with twice the power. It was interesting to learn more about my new abilities and the possible weaknesses surrounding them. Middle school. Our teacher rummaged through papers as he sighed, trying to organize all of it. All right, class. It's time to take a test based on your future career choices in life. This was followed by a collective groan from the class. However, the teacher suddenly threw the papers in the air with a big grin on his face. But let's be honest, I know all of you want to sign up for the hero course. Everyone gave a cheer as they activated their quirks, as I simply sat there, as he then said out loud, "Izuku, I also heard you also assigned for the hero course," and to my lack of surprise, everyone laughed about it. It wasn't a surprise, they didn't know I actually had a quirk now, so they must have thought I still had no powers. Doesn't he know that you need a quirk to be a hero? Let alone get into UA. A random student shouted as I continued to sit in my desk. UA changed that policy, so it isn't impossible for me to get in. Someone suddenly slammed their hand on my desk as they grinned devilishly. Do you really think they would let some worthless normie in over us? I looked up at them with a pretty casual expression. Well, if I have the heart and the dedication, anyone could be a hero if they put their heart into it. This only received more laughter by the rest of my class. Your classmates are a real jerk, kid. How the heck do you put up with all of it? I didn't have to deal with this bullying. If I showed them my quirk or just fought back then, I wouldn't need to deal with it. But I didn't want respect or anything, especially not from these type of people who discriminate against the quirkless and treat them like trash. It's also because I don't know how they'd react, which is also something I'm admittedly scared about. The bully tried to attack me, but I simply caught his hand and gently pushed him away. Why are you attacking me? Are you seriously that disturbed and annoyed that I am trying to apply to UA? This was received by an annoyed glare as he grumbled and went back to his seat, grumbling and such. End of school day. I gently set my bag onto my desk, grabbing my things and putting them away. Reaching out for my hero notebook and putting it, wait, where's my hero notebook? Ha! What's this thing? A type of diary. I turned and saw it was a group of people, mostly the people who bullied me the most. They dunked on me almost every day and made my day overall worst. Their leader was Terry Ichikawa. He had black hair, blue eyes, and was pretty popular in my school. His quirk was sort of like a magnetic pull where he is able to pull people towards him from a certain radius. He could use this to wind up very strong punches. It wasn't as strong as an actual magnetic pull, but it's the closest thing I could think of. It isn't a diary, Terry. It's a hero notebook. I looked at Terry, sighing as I held my hand out, just hoping he would give it back without having to resort to fighting. Come on, Terry, please just give it back. I don't want to deal with this on the last few weeks before summer. Oh, sure. I'll give it back. He grabbed the notebook and started to rip it up in front of me, his goons laughing with him as he did. This was my last damn straw. Put my damn notebook down. I punched him across the face, sending him spinning out and into the wall. Ugh dash. He dropped my notebook, groaning in pain as he rubbed his face. Winded from the punch I threw and not planning to get back up, I went over to him and gently picked up my notebook as I walked out the door of my class. Not wanting to speak another word to him, the way home, I took my normal way home. It was a pretty quiet walk under the bridge. I mean, what was there to talk about really? Besides me punching that man really hard. You know, I'm proud of you standing up for yourself. I was kind of surprised. I would have thought he would lecture me on going a bit too far on Terry. I guess I expected too low of Meliodas to be ashamed of me defending myself. Then, I smelled something. A sort of smell that would have you wanting to throw up. I covered my nose in disgust at just the smell. Ugh. What the hell is that smell? It smells like sewage water and bad pudding had an unwanted love child. I then heard the manhole cover aggressively shaking as I got on guard, lighting my hand on fire. Watch out, kid. Things could get real messy. I nodded and took a deep breath. I know I just need to defend myself from whatever this thing is and I can go. Maybe I got a text, Mom, that I might be a little late. Suddenly, a monster born from sludge popped out of the sewer, a mischievous grin on its face. How about you stay around for a bit, kid? We can get to know each other. Eventually, the sludge villain fully formed as it maniacally looked at me. CCE1BB293B102BEFS9975BAP69.jpg. You'll be a great bodysuit to hide in. Then I can commit crimes without any suspicion. This is it, he went on the attack, trying to pounce onto me like some kind of animal pouncing to get a bite on its prey. I'm no prey, however. I jumped to the right of the villain, holding my hand out. I have to hold back on my strength. I have to knock him out and then an actual hero could deal with him. I powered up a fireball, attacking him and causing him to roar out in pain. Aw, you little brat. He went on to attacking me again. I had to constrain myself a lot, I needed to, or else I would kill him, and heroes don't kill. I attacked again with a wave of fire, clearly hitting him, but somehow he completely powered right through it, jumping at me through the smoke. What dash? He pounced onto me, forcing its way in my mouth as I struggled, gripping onto it and trying to rip it away. That's a strong power you got there, kid. If I wasn't made of sludge, then I would have been in a lot of trouble, but don't worry. Your body will be in good hands with someone like me at the wheel. I had to do something. I had to get out. My mom was waiting for me at home and would cry her heart away if she realized her son had died, never making his dream into a reality. Kid, you gotta dash. Go all out. I know. Both my hands lit on fire as I gripped onto the sludge monster. MHA? What are you, dash? All I heard were the sounds of his screams from the intense hellfire. However, that was only a moment as his screams died down, as his sludge fell flat, simply splashing around me. I coughed, trying to catch my breath as I panted, looking around me to see. The villain was dead. I just killed someone. He wasn't breathing. He didn't say anything or even plead for his life. He was gone. I looked on in horror as his remains simply evaporated due to him being a type of liquid, the fire going out along with him. Did I? I took a look at my hands to see. I was shaking. I started to panic. What if a hero found out? What if I got turned into authorities for killing someone I didn't mean? I didn't want to. Kid, calm down. You're panicking. I slowly started to slow down my breath. There you go, just calm down. Take a few deep breaths and we can talk about it. I regained composure, simply walking out of from under the bridge, looking at my hand. I understand you're scared, kid. Taking your first life is terrifying and horrific, but you'll have to learn over time. If you don't want that to happen to people you care about, you need control. That's why I'm here, to help you gain control. I took a deep breath, simply continuing the walk home. Thank you, Meliodas. I'm always here for you, Izuku. The day had finally arrived, the day I go into UA. My mom waving me off by sweetie. I hope you passed the exam. I simply chuckled and nodded. All right, Mom, I'll be back soon. I gave her a thumbs up, walking out the door. So kid, you finally okay after that sludge incident where you accidentally killed the guy? Sweat dropped from my forehead. You're not helping me get over it by reminding me. He nervously chuckled. Oh, right. Sorry. I passed by Dagoba Beach taking a look at it. Sate. Luckily, nobody hasn't dumped their trash over at Dagoba Beach ever since I cleaned it up for training. Izuku finally took care of the last piece of trash left on Dagoba Beach as he sighed, phew, finally done cleaning. He wiped the sweat off his head. Ah, it seems finally someone has restored this beach to its former beauty. He turned to look at who said that. It was an old-looking man with yellow hair. He wore glasses that covered his eyes and looked really feeble and weak. 8D4 8A9 Abate 8D6 C2DB76 1DBF 83504 ACE8.jpg. Were you the one who cleaned up this beach? He nodded. Yeah. I cleaned it up for training and cause nobody should be dumping trash on a beach anyway, dash. He put his hand on Izuku's shoulder, thanking him for cleaning up the beach, which Izuku nervously accepted the thanks. Later, I excitingly ran through the sakura trees as sakura petals fell from the tree. 10F B496E875E7BC533F20C0216466957.jpg. Wow, it looks really pretty around here, Meliodas said as we walked through. Finally, this is where it all starts, where I start my journey of becoming the #1 he. And then I tripped on a rock, or we'll just die. I said, but then I was stopped mid-air as I heard a feminine voice. Are you okay, sir? I was too focused on me floating as I immediately started to panic in front of her. Not my best showing, if anything. Why am I floating? She helped me back to standing, deactivating her quirk. Sorry, I used my quirk without your permission. She ran her fingers through her hands, still quite nervous. Oh no, it's all right, I thank you for the help. I looked at her more. She was a brown-haired brunette with permanent blush on her face. A 088643753D53Ed1D0819996A16EA8.jpg. I got a better look at her as she seemed as nervous as I was, which was justified. But something about this was just really cute. Oh, are you getting a cruish? Before the first day of school. Midoriya, Izuku, you scoundrel. I felt heat rush up to my cheeks from his teasing. Be quiet. Geez, calm down, kid dash. The girl waved her hand in my face, confused. Are you okay? I snapped back to reality. Yeah, I was just cut off at how cool your quirk is. Which wasn't a lie, I generally thought her quirk was cool. She smiled as she rubbed her head. Really? I don't think it's that cool. I disagreed, but it is cool. You would be an amazing rescue hero with a quirk like that. She smiled as she waved and ran off. Well, hope to see you later, green-haired boy. I mumbled, blushing a little from embarrassment as awkward silence filled the room. Essia too. I ran after her to get inside the building and start my own exam. Meliodas, I just talked to a girl. I could barely hold my excitement. It was practically leaking off my face. Good for you, kid. I'm proud of you. I walked into the building, making my way towards the room where the entrance exam would be explained as I took a seat. I looked towards my left as I saw an ash-blonde guy with blood-red pupils wearing a trench jacket, having a hand on his face to support his head. Man, this is so boring. E2A7F00 FICA 143B565317F3CBD1519.jpg. I nervously looked at him, just whispering to him. He hasn't even begun announcing anything yet, you know, dash. He turned to me and said, yeah, that's the point. I just want to get this exam finished with a place in the hero course, and plus I have a life to live. I snickered a little. I mean, yeah, that's fair, and I want to get in the hero course too. He smirked. Well, try not to get outclassed by me, broccoli boy. I grinned. Oh, I won't. If anything, I'd worried about you, Mr. Pomeranian. We both laughed at each other, but then were immediately yelled at by a guy above us. Can't you both see Present Mike is going to start explaining? You should keep quiet so others could hear. I sighed, turning forward to see Mike, the ash blonde, also sighing as he grumbled a little. Then Present Mike slowly walked to the middle of the stage as he said, ... Present Mike said in an upbeat tone. He said as the ash blonde guy mumbled, thankfully I didn't do it. He smirked to himself. Well, I guess that me doing that was a waste of time then, dash. I said, feeling a little annoyed that it really meant nothing in the end. He said pretty bluntly, as if it had happened a multitude of times. This was sort of obvious, but something felt a little off. Why is it only villain points? Are there no hero points or something? I put a hand on my chin, as I was deep in thought. Then on the screen, he showed a bunch of silhouette figures. 4, 1, 2, 3, 0. I gave a little sigh. Why am I not surprised? Dash, he smiled, saying. Everyone was getting up as they were scrambling to find where they were supposed to go. I looked at my exam card. Okay. City B. City B. Once I made it to City B, I looked around the area. Then by pure chance finding the girl that had saved me from slamming my face in the concrete floor at the entrance as I called out for her. She seemed pretty nervous about this and was trying to calm herself. I was going to go there and encourage her as a way of saying thanks until I then got cut off by the same guy who told me and Bakugo to be quiet. What are you doing? Can't you see she is trying to concentrate? You are trying to make her fail. I looked at him, pretty confused. What? No, this is a misunderstanding, you see. She helped me, so I wanted to thank he dash. I was once again cut off as Present Mike shouted. I felt a rush as I ran off to go fight some robots for points. Geez, that guy must have woke up on the wrong side of the bed this morning, dash, Meliodas said. I punched a 2-pointer robot, destroying it in one hit, as I looked at my fist in surprise. Wow, that was really strong. I never really tested out my strength on a metal being much, so destroying this thing in a singular punch was sort of a rush. I went on a spree, destroying robot after robot. Wow, Izuku, I'm impressed you already got 34 points. He gave an applause for how much I'd grown in power through the years. I went to destroy another robot. Suddenly a sparkling laser beam shot through it, destroying it and stealing my points. I looked at the direction it was shot as I saw a blonde individual as the guy gave a snarky remark. Thank you for being a distraction. I hope we may meet again. He went off to find more robots as I gave an expression of annoyance. Meliodas following up with a, man, that guy must have a pretty big ego dash. I went to a 3-pointer robot, giving it a swift kick to the head, decapitating it. All right, that makes 37. I turned to see a whole orgy of 2-pointers as I smirked. This'll be fun. I ran towards them, grabbing one of them and spinning around as it destroyed the one I was holding and the other one surrounding it. Woo! Yeah, baby. I threw the 2-pointer out. That's another 20 points to the score. So I was at about 57 as suddenly I hear screaming. People running past me as I turned around. What the? I saw a giant robot looking down at all of us. Man, it looks as if a titan is attacking us. In the faculty lounge, a tired-looking man sat around with a bunch of other pro heroes. It seems that time is running out. The man said, obviously tired as he looked to the animal in the room. So Principal Nizu, is it time? 44 5D9 5B161E1 Feb 07D86AE3CA591.jpg. The polar bear mouse-looking hybrid known as Principal Nizu nodded, stating, "Of course it is. After all, the point of this robot is to see what our candidates can do under a situation like this. It'll create an opportunity for some students to really shine here." He smiled, pressing a big red button. Now let's see how they deal with the 0-pointer. Back at the practical exam/city B. 44BC6C156510A3D8F0-32C2864BFFF4.jpg. The giant robot looked over us, bigger than the city itself, creating massive debris in his wake. Okay, time to go. I turned around ready to run but heard a yell, "H, help!" I saw who yelled for help. It was the same girl who saved me. She was trapped under some of the debris left by the robot as she was about to get squished. This girl was the first person who has shown kindness to me. She was going to die and everyone was simply running away for their own safety? Here I was, freezing up despite having all the power to stop this thing. Do something, Izuku, do something. Flashback. A useless person without a quirk like you could never become a hero. I was bullied for so much of my life and discriminated against for not having a quirk. My class started to even make nicknames to make fun of me. Normie, no quirk wonder, useless Deku. I was told my dreams of becoming a hero were nothing more than that. Just a dream, something that could never be reached. But with this power, I could do something. I can act, make the call, save someone for once in my useless life. Flashback end. Don't worry. I ran in. My body moved without thinking, and even during it, I wasn't thinking about what else to do. All I had on my mind was to save that girl. I grit my teeth in anger as I said, "I'm about to dust this guy." I jumped up, higher than I ever have before. Oink's flames enveloping my fist as I roared, "Leave her alone!" I slammed my fist against its face, destroying the whole thing in a dark, fiery light show, taking a deep inhale as the thing slowly went down and hit the ground. Job well done, Izuku Midoriya. Job well done, Izuku Midoriya. The robot was completely destroyed and was reduced to an unrecognizable hunk of junk. I did it. I actually saved someone. I could feel a smile creeping onto my face. I had saved someone for the first time in my life. Hey Izuku. Yeah? Meliodas would hate to ruin the mood, but we're kinda heading towards the ground and need to land on our feet. When Meliodas said that, reality started to once again settle in. I wasn't paying attention on my current position, and now was gonna have my first kiss with concrete. Schmack. I could feel the pain of a slap to my face as I hovered above the ground, almost touching it, but not exactly reaching it as my velocity had stopped completely. Rear release. I then gently hit the floor and got up. I realized it was her again, the brown-haired girl. She saved me from having my first kiss be with concrete by floating on parts of the robot that had crushed her. And time is you up. I looked towards the girl and watched as she proceeded to vomit. Well, at least I know that's most likely a quirk side effect now. I ran over to her and hopped onto the robot piece she was on, patting her back as to make her feel better. Hey, are you okay? You must have used a lot of energy to do all of that while injured. Her legs were still sprained and wounded from the robot after all. It must have taken her a lot of energy to do all that while injured, all because I wasn't paying attention. Why, yeah, I'm okay. What about you? She looked at me with a tired smile. I'm doing fine, thanks to your quirk. I looked at her. I saved her now, sure, but that didn't change the fact she was injured and in pain. I had to get someone to treat her wounds. All right, up we go. I lifted her up and carried her on my back with her hands over my shoulders, jumping off the hunk of metal and making my way towards the other contestants. What are you doing? She sounded shocked, which was justified as I did just suddenly pick her up without warning. I'm going to get help to treat your injury. I also want to thank you for helping me twice. I smiled as I gently brought her and turned forward again as I was met with another pro hero coming out of the crowd of contestants. It was the pro hero recovery girl. Oh my! She seems to be in quite a bit of agony, the youthful heroine gently said as she put a hand on her cheek. I gently laid her down in front of her. She threw up after saving me using her quirk. It was most likely from overusage, especially after her injuries. Well, aren't you just a gentleman? She gently laughed as she puckered up and kissed her on the forehead. Did she just kiss her on the forehead? Just relax and watch. Suddenly, a gentle green glow surrounded the brown-haired girl's legs, the wounds healing from the magical kiss. Recovery girl then looked at her as she got up. You should be all healed up now. Does anyone else need healing? She walked off to see if any other student needed healing, which was swiftly declined not just because everyone else was mostly fine, but also because they found it weird being kissed by an old lady. You know, I don't want to sound old, but back in my time, we didn't need to kiss people to heal them, which I followed up with from my own annoyance. It still worked, so please be quiet. After exams, the practical exams came to an end. Before we left, however, the staff at UA promised that in a week's time from now that we would receive a letter declaring if we had gotten into the school or not. I was making my way out of the UA building, left anxious from having to wait a week. So, did you think you got in? I don't know if I got in or not. Why do you think I'm anxious about the whole thing? I gripped my chest, somewhat nervous. I mean, I don't know how strong everyone else was or how well they did. It's not like they were actively telling us or anything. I'm just worried I may let mom down even with this power and… Hey, wait up. I was cut off from my internal rambling session, turning around and gaining a look of shock as I realized who it was. It's you. It was the cute brown-haired girl again. I wanted to talk to you. And thank you for helping me back there. She panted as she seemed to have gone a long way to talk to me again, bowing a bit even. And no need to bow or anything. I just wanted to help because you looked like you were in danger and because you helped me so. It was kind of a shock to me that someone was giving me this much gratitude, a girl no less. Still, you completely wrecked that thing. You were all like wabam, kabush, wapow, all that. She did punching motions with her fist as she then looked at me again. Oh yeah. I also came by because I wanted to be friends and know each other. Friends? Me and a cute girl? Calm down, Izuku. Calm down. She just wanted to be friends and nothing more. I am Izuku Midoriya. It's a pleasure to meet you. I bowed slightly to show respect. Oh, don't bow. Now you got me all embarrassed too. She laughed a bit, waving it off. I'm Achiko Uraraka. It's nice to meet you too. She smiled. It almost felt like the whole sun was hitting me at max. I could feel my heart, sorry, I forgot about that, beating faster as the heat rushed to my face. I can give you my number, so we can stay in contact. She started to dig into her jacket to find her phone. Wait, she's giving her phone number. Sate. You gained yourself a friend. And a girl no less. Oh, shut up, Meliodas. Don't make it weird. I unfroze when she took my hand and gave me a paper with her number on it. Ha! She smiled and ran off, waving by at me. I'll talk to you later, okay? Tell me if you get into UA. Or not. See you later, Midoriya-kun. Holy crap, I just got a girl's number. This had to be the best and also possible worst day of my life. If my mom figures out I got a girl's number, I'll never hear the end of it. Combined with Meliodas already teasing me I will never survive? Hey, I'm right here, you know. No time to dwell on it. I'll just go home on the train and wait for the letter to arrive. Katsuki Bakugo POV. I stretched a bit on my way to the train station, cracking my knuckles as I groaned. Damn it. Punching those hunks of metal really made my knuckles all sore. Well, you are punching metal, kid. I don't know what you expected. Shut it, old ma OF? He suddenly ran into someone as he was knocked down as he rubbed his head. Ugh. Oi. Watch where you going. My apologies. I wasn't paying attention. It was some guy floating on a pillow and not gonna lie, I probably also wouldn't be paying attention if I had some comfy thing like that. 26493A3BB5C5A064A4775EB09 add 5A8Fay.jpg. Shit2. Wait for me. I looked past him and saw some pink girl catching up to him, also seemingly flying. Why can they both fly? Oh, sorry, sister. What? How they don't look anything alike? What? Well, looks like I seen a familiar face. That's interesting. I cleaned my ear with a finger, not willing to question what he said at all. You could have at least waited for me, she huffed, crossing her arms. I'm sorry. Come on, let us make our way home. They eventually went past me as I made way, looking at them in complete confusion. Well, at least the sister was kinda cute. I continued walking back to the train station. After receiving joyful news from the letter sent by Endeavor, I decided it'd be best to actually take some rest, to get ready for My Hero Academia. I went to doze off, but suddenly got a text message from my phone. I checked, and it was from Uraraka. Quickly, I got up and checked my phone. We had talked to each other a bit over the phone a few times while waiting for the UA letter to make it to both our houses. Uraraka, I got my letter today. I'm so happy I was able to make it in. How about you, Midoriya? Izuku? Yeah, I got my letter today too. I'm glad to hear that you made it too. Hopefully we get to see each other in the same class. Uraraka, that would be so awesome. We'll have to see if it happens tomorrow. I looked at the phone with a smile, as I could only imagine ending up in the same classroom with someone like Uraraka. Sue, how's texting your girlfriend? I nearly threw my phone at the wall. I frantically got up and looked around, until I realized it was just Meliodas teasing me. Don't do that. You nearly gave me a throw my phone. He smiled at me, sitting down crisscrossed, chuckling a bit. What cha mean? I can't congratulate you for making it into your dream school and being able to get a girlfriend. Sheesh. Talk about rude. He playfully crossed his arms as I somewhat smiled. It was kind of funny seeing him play all made and stuff. I gotta thank you. Without you or your guidance, neither of these things would be possible. He warmly smiled at me as he chuckled. Heh, no problem, Izuku. Now get some shut-eye. Got a big day tomorrow. He was right, UA isn't something I cannot take seriously. It was the most prestigious school in Japan after all. He needed all the rest he could get to be ready. The next morning, my alarm went off as I slowly lifted my eyelids open as I stretched. Today was the day. My first day of UA high school. I grabbed my uniform and got dressed. Though one big problem I had was the tie. I kinda sucked as well, tying my tie. Izuku, honey, your breakfast is here. Yeah, give me a minute, mom. I am just kinda struggling with this tie. After a good few minutes, my mom helped me tie it. She told me that she used to tie stuff for Dad too, as he also struggled with ties like me. Dad was always a touchy subject. Mom has always told me he worked overseas, but I just never believed that. It's been years upon years, and I never seen him at all. Sometimes I wonder if Mom even remembered what he looked like. Ahem, that aside. I ate breakfast my mom made and got my bag. As before I made my way out the door, my mom stopped me. Izuku, wait. I stopped and looked at her, raising an eyebrow. Good luck out there. Izuku. I looked at her, smiling softly, and waved. Yeah. Thanks, Mom. At UA? Or as some people call it, UE. Once I actually made it to UA. I was so surprised. It was way bigger and cooler than I thought it was. So what class are you exactly supposed to be going to? Class 1A. Class 1A. Where is it? I looked around, seeing so many people with so many interesting quirks pass by as I turned to the right. Class 1A. There it is. Just like the other classes, the door was huge, probably twice or 3x's my height. That was only a guess too. It might have been even bigger. Okay. Time to step into the class and see who my classmates are. Take your feet off of the desk now. You are disrespecting the past heroes who have used this desk. Come on, why'd you immediately assumed that plus that's oddly specific? You've ever done this before? The moment I got in, I was met with the ash blonde boy I met at the present mic speech arguing with the same guy with glasses from the entrance exam. A688AFFF2CF5795997E1645448A9.jpg. How absurd. I would never do that, hero or not. Suddenly he turned to me and grinned, humming as he made it my way. Oh hey, it's you. The guy I talked with during that practical exam. Name's Katsuki Bakugo. Well, I didn't think I would be seeing you here either. This is a pleasant surprise. Suddenly, the glasses guy made his way towards us as well, introducing himself with a robotic hand-chopping motion. I am Tenya Ida. I remember you from the entrance exam. I looked up at him and waved, smiling a bit. I'm Izuku Midoriya. It's nice to meet you both. Ida agreed, but then suddenly bowed as he apologized to me. I'm sorry for judging you, Midoriya. You clearly knew the true nature of that test and have truly shown me. You are the better man. Whoa. No need to bow or anything. I just did what was right. I didn't know that part of the test at all. Meanwhile, I could hear the clear annoyance of Bakugo questioning where his apology was at. Midoriya, it's you. I turned around and my eyes widened. It was Uraraka, in the school uniform too. I can't believe we get to be in the same class together. That's so awesome. She smiled as her hands went up and down in an excited motion. Man, I can't wait for orientation. It's gonna be great. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I smiled back at her, rubbing the back of my head. It was so hard not to stare, especially from how cute she looked in the uniform. If you're here to make friends, then I suggest you do it somewhere else, said an anonymous voice. We all turned around. Slowly but surely, and it was Dash, a tired man in a sleeping bag. 79B666E8130D4C163E7CF1245A8CA3.jpg. Why was there a man in a sleeping bag in the middle of the hallway? I didn't even see him. Huh? Why the hell is a homeless man in the middle of the hallway? Bakugo then proceeded to nonchalantly pick up the man, looking around the place. Should I report this to a teacher or like, Dash, how about you let me down or else I'll expel you on the spot? After hearing that, he groaned and put him down, crossing his arms. Finny, who even are you anyways? The man got out of his sleeping bag to reveal himself as he introduced himself. I'm Shoyuta Aizawa. I will be your homeroom teacher. That was Eraserhead, the pro hero. I didn't exactly recognize him because he was laying in a sleeping bag. Take your PE clothes and get ready to head outside to the PE ground. Uraraka looked at him somewhat confused as she raised her hand. Mr. Aizawa, what about orientation? This caused him to look at her and squint in slight annoyance. That type of stuff isn't important for turning you all into pro heroes. Now do as I say and get dressed and meet me at the PE grounds. They were all changing in the boys' changing room. As Izuku took off his shirt, a purple ball-headed boy yelled, "Guys, there's a hole to the girls' bathroom." He had randomly found it by ripping off a poster in the locker room. Why was the hole there? Only God knew why. Don't do that, dude. That isn't manly, said the spiky red-haired boy. My little Mineta is the manliest thing there is. The purple boy ripped the poster off, slamming his eye into the hole. I can't wait to see Yaoyorozu's ample Yaoyoro boobs, Ashido's slender waist, Uraraka's curvy and thick body, and Tsu's unexpected boo. Squeak. Huh? The boy turned his head upwards in almost a comedic fashion, his eyes locking with the green-haired boy's infuriated and disgusted expression. 235C92924C55739B043AE0B8ACF3AF.jpg. Has anyone ever taught you common sense and respect when it comes to girls at all? The tiny boy looked up at him completely terrified as he shook in fear. WWHA-OFQ-. Suddenly, before the purple bald boy could continue his sentence, almost like an act of God punishing him, his eye was stabbed by an earphone jack, causing him to, well, SDF unleofcaxiaged, spaz out. Jairu's earphone jack. He dropped Mineta as he seemed like he didn't need to go on. Meanwhile, in the girls' locker room, Jairu Kyoka had stabbed Mineta's ear with her quirk as she stood there with a deadpan face. Thank you, Kyoka-chan, Uraraka said, embarrassed and infuriated at all the lewd compliments she was given. Why did he say nothing about me? Kyoka thought to herself as she retracted her earphone. Once they go outside, everyone made it outside in their gym uniforms as their tired and cranky teacher, Aizawa-sensei, had awaited for them as he explained to them. This will be your Quirk apprehension test. This will be similar to the test you've taken in middle school. He looked towards the ash blonde. Bakugo, how hard did you throw the ball in middle school? He gave Bakugo a softball as Bakugo playfully threw the ball around as he was cut off by his teacher. It was like 137 meters. Now I want you to use your quirk and throw the ball as hard as you can. Once he heard that, a big grin plastered on the boy's face. Your wish is my command. Teach. Aizawa and the others started to suddenly felt weak and fell to the floor. What is this? Aizawa said, struggling to stay up as he looked to others, seeing everyone on the floor. all besides a few. Wow, you guys are still standing? Bakugo answered as he looked at Izuku, Yaoyorozu, Todoroki, Mina and Hitoshi, who still stood without much struggle unlike the rest. I guess I just have more powers than the others. He tried to play it off. Momo looked at him silently as she sighed at the unneeded arrogance. Little did she know. Izuku didn't exactly mean to sound so arrogant as Kirishima just looked at the two as so manly. He struggled. All right, here we go. He chucked the softball. Once the ball went into the air, everyone felt their power return as they got back up, taking a deep sigh of relief. Geez, I felt like a huge weight came off my shoulders, Mina said, jumping playfully. What a unique quirk. He hasn't seen a quirk like this where the user takes power from others to enhance himself. Why thank you, teach. Plop. For some reason he suddenly plopped onto the floor. It was almost comedic timing since he had just received a comment or compliment by their new teacher. This is sort of a drawback of Snatch, my whole body sorta just shuts down in O. Izuku took a deep sigh as he walked up to Hin and dragged him back by the arm. Thanks, buddy. Aizawa got up, dusting off his clothes as he checked the distance the ball made when Bakugo threw it, somewhat looking in surprise. 1281 meters. This had the others in awe and excitement to check how far they could chuck the ball. It made them feel a bit too confident. We get to use our quirks, that's so awesome. Yeah, I wonder how far I can throw it too. This'll be so fun. However, this isn't what their teacher wanted. He wanted them to learn that this wasn't for all fun and games. This world was cruel and unjust, which is exactly why he needed them to learn this lesson before they became real heroes. Fun? You think that all of this is fun and games? Some sort of playground? Fine then, let's play a game. Whoever gets last. He glared at his students, infuriation in his voice. Will be expelled and be forced to resign. This obviously shocked all the students. They had worked their asses off just to get to this point. All of that could just mean nothing? Someone's dreams would be crushed if they didn't rank high enough, which is just soul-crushing to think about. Man, this guy's hardcore. I haven't seen someone this hardcore since like Hendrickson or something. Nothing. What you need to focus on is to not get last though. Uraraka was the first person to voice their complaints. That isn't fair. We worked so hard to get here, and you're telling us it might not even mean anything. However, their teacher stood his ground on why this was such a necessary thing to put them through. Not fair? Are natural disasters fair? Are villains attacking fair? No, life isn't fair. That's why we heroes exist, to counteract that unfairness in this world. Now we'll be going through 8 physical tests, including this one later on. Now let's continue and don't hold back. Everyone stiffened up. Yes, Aizawa-sensei. First test up was a 50-meter dash. Ida went up first as he was perfectly made for this. He used his engines to dash through easily and get 3.04 seconds. Next up was Tsu, who got 5.58 seconds thanks to her frog-like abilities. Uraraka's zero gravity didn't help her as much as Ida and Froppy's quirks did, getting 7.12 seconds. Ojiro and Yuga got 5.49 and 5.51 respectively. Next up was Mina. She used her wind quirk on her feet and arms, along with her natural flying ability, making her get 3.26, almost as fast as Ida, which made her pretty happy. Bakugo using his snatch ability to steal everyone's strength, speed, and etc. He got 3.59 seconds. Next up was Izuku, as he simply ran, which everyone thought he would get last if he just did that. However, his speed shocked everyone as he got first by 0.02 seconds. This shocked Ida, specifically gaining more respect for Izuku and his speed. The next test was the grip strength test, Shoji going up and got a grip strength of 540 kilograms. Izuku went up next as he did as good as Shoji, getting 540 kilograms worth of grip strength, which shocked especially since Shoji had multiple arms, which gave him an advantage to this specific test. Next was the standing long jump. Mina and her brother Todoroki easily did this as they both could just naturally fly. Izuku also tried jumping and clearing the whole sandbox. Next was the repeated side steps. Only Mineta doing this test and bounced himself side to side very fast using his purple balls made from his head and easily passed the test. Besides that, everyone was pretty average on the side to side things. Really, the only advantage was strength and speed control. The final test that was notable was the ball throw. Bakugo didn't have to take it because he already did it at the start. Uraraka most notably got infinity using her gravity quirk. Mina also went and threw using her wind, getting 2,000 meters because the wind carrying the ball to go farther. Finally was Izuku, who stood in the circle. This time, use your quirk Midoriya, Aizawa said sternly, Izuku slightly being worried since Aizawa kinda knew he hadn't been using his quirk the whole time. He tried to calm himself as he clutched the ball tightly as he lit it up into a oinks flame as he got into a ball-throwing stance, as he threw it causing the ball to fly before burning into ash. Aizawa gave a smirk showing Izuku had gotten 1672 meters. Everyone looked in shock as that was higher than Bakugo's throw now. It's time to see the overall rankings of this class. Aizawa brought up the rankings. Izuku Midoriya first, Bakugo Katsuki second, Shoto Todoroki third, Mina Ashido fourth, Tenya Ida fifth, Fumikage Tokoyami sixth, Momo Yaoyorozu seventh, Mizo Shoji eighth, Mashireo Ojiro ninth, Ijiro Kirishima 10th, Achiko Uraraka 11th, Shinso Hitoshi 12th, Koji Koda 13th, Tsuyu Azui 14th, Yuga Aoyama 15th, Hanta Siro 16th, Denki Kaminari 17th, Kyoka Jairu 18th, Toru Hakigure 19th, Minoru Mineta 20th. Mineta seemingly pissed himself when he saw he was last place, as he awaited for Aizawa to say he was expelled until he said, "You all passed," as everyone looked in shock. The boy was making his way to school as per his normal route, taking a train to make it near the school and walk the rest of the way. Yesterday sure was crazy. With the threat of expulsion, that is. Despite having the abilities to confidentially rank high out of the 20 or so more students, that didn't make him any less worried on what Mr. Aizawa had in store for them next. Midoriya-kun dash. Wait up. It was Uraraka running behind him. Ah. Good morning, Uraraka-san. He stopped for her, allowing her to catch up as they made their way inside of the building. He looked at her, wondering if she was feeling good today. So how are you doing? I'm doing fine for the most part. Thanks for asking. That's good to hear. He gently smiled at her. What about you? She tilted her head as she looked up at him. I'm doing pretty fine myself. I am just a bit worried though. Is it about Mr. Aizawa? He responded with a nod. Eventually they made it to class and opened the door, letting her go in first as he followed afterwards. Yeah. I'm kinda worried about what kind of curveball he's gonna throw into the next lesson. They both sat down as she nodded in agreement with him. They were both still pretty shaken up about the whole threat of expulsion day 1 of UA. Tell me about it. Bakugo suddenly butted his way into the conversation, resting his arm on her desk. Looking at them, what kind of nutcase would try to threaten their own students with expulsion day 1? Kinda weird if you ask me. Actually, now that I think about it, what do you think we're gonna do today? The ash-blonde boy shrugged along with the brunette, signifying they had no idea, which was a pretty reasonable reaction after all Aizawa had blown their expectations out the water. Hello, students. A man with a burning beard said with a face that would make all villains cower in fear. The students all turned in shock as they recognized such a menacing and powerful voice before. Something you could only hear from TV if anything. Number 1 hero Endeavor? Shouted Bakugo as he immediately went back to his desk as to show respect towards the number 1 hero. Everyone was so excited. The number 1 hero was seemingly going to be teaching them. How could you not be excited about a popular figurehead teaching you things? It's Endeavor. Great. The number 1 hero, Mina and Shoto, were the only ones that weren't thrilled about this whole ordeal at all. They seemed very quiet and even annoyed by Endeavor's presence here. We're going to be doing some exercise, a hero versus villain exercise to be exact. Oh, are we gonna fight actual villains? Kirishima was quite excited to see if they could fight real villains on the second day of school. Pretty sure he was expecting too much. Not exactly. It's going to be an exercise where teams of 2 will be proclaimed heroes and the other 2 will be named villains. Ida then suddenly raised his hand. Mr. Endeavor, I have a question. He perked up and answered Ida. What is it, Tenya? Ida started to do his robot hand chopping motion as per usual as he exclaimed. Are we going to be able to use our new hero costumes for this exercise? Endeavor comedically sweat as it evaporated due to his intense flames. I was just about to get to that part. Ahem. I need all of you to get your hero costumes and gather at Ground B. That'll be where the exercise starts. At Ground B, you all looked great. Truly worthy of the next generation of heroes. This was sort of lying about when looking at a specific student. The said student being Shinso, who seemed like he didn't wear actually anything besides casual clothing. Sure, some students also looked pretty casual, but they had flair to their costumes that made it stand out more. Shoto, for example, had a white and teal button-up hoodie with some jeans and black shoes. A 745D8AE95E67CB4 1-3BAF2C8E89144.jpg. Bakugo wore a long maroon-colored trench coat and some bright red pants. 97383F97CE4E8EF0994F2192E4D.jpg. Mina also had a hero costume, but it looked more like a princess cosplay of sorts. No offense to her. It was a long white dress with pink highlights at the end. It also shared seemingly golden streaks at her wrist and the end of her dress. A big bow behind it seemingly keeping it together. C9B31F1B9 1489C438B4B5ECE1C5F1387.jpg. She also wore dance shoes to show her passion of dancing, as it was something known she enjoyed doing in the Todoroki household. Izuku wore a white and green vest with a green undershirt. On both sleeves, they had the UA symbol, along with the symbol on the back of his shirt. 6975 3427 IBAF 2 Beef 971 CA5A7 Fest 9.jpg. He also still had a sword with a dragon hilt. Second to last was Momo Yaoyorozu. She wore an orange shirt with a small skirt at the end and shorts. F39 F739 97 FC709 F39 16E0 C8606 FDB621.jpg. Finally was Endeavor's main concern, Shinso Hitoshi. 88120A6F994664858A68DC15A6030C9.jpg. He legit only wore a shirt and pants like an everyday outfit. Back to our regularly scheduled program. Now for the way we'll go about this exercise. Endeavor explained more in depth what this exercise would be. This will be in a 2v2 format, hero versus villains. Villains will guard a nuclear weapon they intend on deploying, and the heroes must stop their scheme. If the heroes capture all villains or reach the nuclear bomb before time runs out, they win. The villains must do the opposite and vice versa of keeping the bomb away or kidnapping the heroes. He suddenly held up a box. Now teams will be decided by all of you drawing from a lottery box. While they were getting their teams organized, Izuku finally sees a late Uraraka who was sort of trying to get used to her new hero costume. Midoriya, I'm sorry I'm late. He turned and saw her, as he blushed heavily, somewhat jolting back. 10169 ed2df7a603132cE62FD662cef0b8.jpg. I didn't say what kind of hero costume I wanted, so I ended up in a bodysuit is so puffy and curvy. Izuku, who was very flustered, tried to clear her worries about it, waving his hand. It's fine. I think it looks just fine. I love this school, said the purple grape as Izuku was really getting close to threaten hitting him. Eventually the teams were made and they went like this. Teams. Team A, Izuku Midoriya and Achiko Uraraka. Team B, Shoto Todoroki and Mizo Shoji. Team H, Fumikage Tokoyami and Tsuyu Ajui. Team G, Denki Kaminari and Kyoka Jairu. Team E, Yuga Aoyama and Mina Todoroki. Team D, Katsuki Bakugo and Tenya Ida. Team I, Masahiro Ojiro and Shinso Hitoshi. Team J, Eijiro Kirishima and Hantashiro. Team C, Momo Yaoyorozu and Minoru Mineta. Team F, Rikido Sato and Koji Koda. Izuku and Uraraka looked at each other as Uraraka pumped her fist in the air. Whoa, we're on a team together, Midoriya. It's almost like fate. I wouldn't exactly say fate. Izuku blushed at the thought but shrugged it off as he had to refocus on their opponents, or more appropriately, who their opponents would be. Endeavor took 2 boxes with the sign of hero and villain on it as he deeply dug into it and eventually came out with the teams battling. Team D are the villains. Team A will be the heroes. Izuku and Uraraka locked eyes with Bakugo and Ida. Ida and Bakugo, you both will have to adopt the mindset of a villain, and because this is a practical experience, I advise you not to hold back at all. He then paused before continuing. Though do not go too far, or I'll be forced to step in. Team D had to go in first to set up the bomb and protect it, while Team A had to think of a strategy and plan to either get the bomb or apprehend both the villains. Uraraka, I have a plan. I need you to trust me first though. She gave a determined smile as she nodded at him. If there's anyone I can trust more with something like this, It's you, Midoriya. This was all he needed to hear as he started to explain his plan to Uraraka as to win the fight against the opposing team. In the building, Uraraka and Izuku entered the building, with Uraraka sneaking into the building via one of the windows. Successful infiltration. Izuku watched her as he traveled more carefully and hesitantly. There were a lot of blind corners, so they needed to be careful, as so the opposing team didn't get the jump on them. They traveled through the building close together, Izuku leading first because he was the one to make the plan after all. Suddenly, from one of the corners, Bakugo leaped out in a surprise attack as he cocked his fist back. I found you! Izuku tackled Uraraka, causing the girl to yelp in surprise from the tackle. Are you alright, Uraraka? He got up beside her as he thankfully wasn't grazed by the attack at all. Why ya? Just a bit surprised is all. She was surprised about two things. One was Izuku randomly tackling her and shielding her. The other was Bakugo coming out of God knows where. Bakugo's fist emitted smoke as he ripped his fist out of the wall, grinning at the two of them. He had completely decimated one of the walls, just with a normal punch. He broke through the wall in one attack, said the yellow-haired boy in complete horror. They got to see all of this through the cameras in a different building. He sure can dodge. And he sure can hit hard, Mina exclaimed in surprise as she looked at Denki and back at the screen. Endeavor was also shocked as that just seemed like a plain old attack. How strong really was this kid? Back to the fight, however. Bakugo charged at them again with a battle-crazed grin on his face as he cocked his fist back again. I've been meaning to see your strength ever since yesterday. TCH. Izuku got up and charged up his own punch, clashing with Bakugo and creating a shockwave purely from just the clash. NGH. Uraraka was sent back a bit from the shockwave. Uraraka, get out of here. I can handle this. She looked at him and nodded, running past him and Bakugo as they struggled against each other. Oh no, you don't. He sung as he held out his other hand as to use snatch and steal her strength. This would also help since he could be able to crack. Ha! Snap! Keep your eyes on me. Izuku won the clash as he punched Bakugo across the face, causing him to spin out and hit a wall, flying past Uraraka entirely and down the hallway. Eek dash! She jumped a bit, but she continued going as she had faith Izuku could handle this whole thing, being able to meet back up with her and handle Ida together. Once the smoke cleared, the boy groaned as he got up. His arm was dangling as it was completely broken, wiping the blood of his nose. Man, you're strong. I like it. Izuku waved his hand as that was a pretty strong punch he threw as he gave him a compliment back. You're not so bad yourself. Over the intercom, Endeavor immediately felt like he had to disqualify the other team as Bakugo was seemingly already completely destroyed after one clash. Stop the exercise. Midoriya, your team I dash. Shut it, teach. This caused Endeavor to pause as he argued back at the boy for a bit. Bakugo, your arm is completely decimated and you're bleeding profusely. Bakugo grinned as he was told this, getting up straight. You think I don't know that? Almost like a work of recovery girl. Bakugo's broken arm started to regenerate and fix itself as he dusted himself off, grinning ear to ear. So how about it, teach? Can we keep going? With clear hesitance, Endeavor cleared his voice as he exclaimed to them. The match can continue. He got back in a battle stance as he looked at Izuku with eyes with a raging inferno to fight to the bitter end. Good. Now come on then, Midoriya. Show me what you got. This declaration actually caused Izuku to smile a bit as he got in his own battle stance against Bakugo. Oh, trust me. I'll show you what I got, alright. They dashed at each other, throwing punches faster than the naked eye could ever hope to track. Even with the cameras, they would most likely need to slow it down if they wanted to keep up. Spectator building. Almost everyone was horrified at the monstrous strength these two 15-year-old boys were capable of dishing out. These two are some of the manliest guys I met. Kirishima was inspired by their feats of strength than anything else, wanting to eventually get up to something even similar of that. Through the camera, they watched as Bakugo threw multiple punches only for Izuku to knock him down to the ground. That seems like it would take years upon years of training to even equate to that. Denki was more horrified and perplexed at how strong these two were. Even Endeavor seemed to be a bit of loss. How can two boys not even half his age be this strong? Something clearly wasn't adding up. Back in the building, Uraraka smoothly made it to the final floor as giant sounds of shockwaves and stuff could still be heard, despite her being at the top floor. I can still hear the shockwaves? Man, Midori and Bakugo are super duper strong. She hid behind a pillar, watching Ida as she saw him doing. Halt, heroes. Thou shall not touch our evil bomb. Villain impressions. Uraraka, hearing that, covered her mouth, snickering lightly. Wait, no, that doesn't sound right. Let me try again. He cleared his voice as he tried once more. I am the ultimate evil. It was too much. She was unable to contain her laughter as she let off a sound. Dash. He's so serious. However, this was a mistake on her part, as Ida had found her, turning to her and trying to speak in his evil voice. I knew you'd make it here, Uraraka. I know your quirk allows you make any object to levitate using the laws of zero gravity. My countermeasure, however, he struck a pose and started to do a cartoon villain laugh, involved me removing all of the objects littered on the floor. Muha ha 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 ha. The floor sparkled as he was correct. He had spent his time cleaning this whole floor just in case of her arriving her. Talk about dedication. I will not allow your tricks to work on me, hero. This is checkmate. Muha ha ha ha. This caused Uraraka to cringe a bit, but she knew at the end of the day Ida's heart was in the right place. It was just hard to take him very seriously. Izuku and Bakugo's fight raged on. Izuku was noticeably slowing down. Gritting his teeth as he sweated, he could feel his punches were getting weaker and weaker and that he was getting slower and slower. Uraraka just needed to get the bomb and then dash. Hey Midoriya. Sorry, but Ida found me. I'm inching back, but this caused Izuku to somewhat panic, getting punched across the face by Bakugo and being sent back. NGH dash. He rolled on the floor but was able to catch himself and land on his feet, continuing his conversation to figure out where she was. Where are you right now, Uraraka? I'm on the 5th floor in the center. He gritted his teeth as he struggled to defend against Bakugo's overwhelming assault. They had destroyed so much of the hideout, even Endeavor had to call them out on it. They didn't seem to care, however. Come on, Midoriya. I can feel you're still holding back on me. He ran to punch Izuku with a grin still on his face. Izuku tried to counterattack, but Bakugo jumped over him and hit him with a roundhouse kick. Izuku groaned as this went from an even fight to him being on the back burner. Things weren't going well for Uraraka either. She tried to use her zero gravity to jump over Ida and get the bomb, but Ida was way too fast for her to even do that, simply grabbing the bomb before she could and relocating it. Your quirk possesses no threat as long as you can't touch anything. Now struggle as I take your precious time away. Muha ha ha ha. Back with the boys, Izuku was battered and bruised. His hero costume had been ripped apart. The only thing really keeping him in the fight was his healing factor and durability. Looks like you're running out of steam, Fight Bud. Fight Bud was a new nickname Bakugo had came up for Midoriya, as they both seemed to be enjoying this fight a lot. How about you show me your real power? He dashed at Izuku one more time, cocking his fist back. This was the deciding attack. This was gonna be the final blow. All right, kid. Give him what he's asking for. Fine. The spectators, everyone watched in slight horror as Izuku, who was seemingly on his last legs, watched Bakugo make his way towards him for a final attack. Come on, Endeavor, you gotta stop this. This attack is for sure gonna kill him. Kirishima stated his worries as Endeavor sweated, grimacing as he held the microphone. You too. Stop this, no dash. Back in the building. Before his punch could land, his wrist was grabbed and completely crushed as a wave of power spilled out from his opponent. A shockwave was created from his pure aura as the building shook, Bakugo even floating in the air from his power. It's been fun, Bakugo. Really, it has. CC33246F4F6X88141B38B013-65B2EF.jpg. But me and Uraraka need to win, as Bakugo looked on in awe at the sudden change in his opponent. He could barely register what was going on. Uraraka. Now! Being able to her Izuku through the communication device, she grabbed onto a pillar, with Ida being none the wiser. I don't need to drag this on. All I need is this singular punch. He simply threw a punch that didn't connect despite this seemingly weak punch. This is all Bakugo needed to realize. We lost. That singular weak-looking punch created a massive shockwave, completely annihilating the cameras from the floor they were on. Bakugo was sent flying through every single floor and even beyond the 5th floor. 8 Kved 87F058722849998 He's so strong, is all he could think of as he was sent through the roof. The shockwave eventually made it up to the floor Ida and Uraraka were on. Bakugo! Ida could momentarily see it, but he saw Bakugo's Swiss-cheesed body as he shielded himself from the shockwave. Uraraka used this as her chance. She lifted a pillar using her quirk as she apologized. "Sorry, Ida. I've gotta improvise." She swung the pillar as she used it as a baseball bat to hit the debris Izuku has caused from his punch to create a new move. "Comet home run." She smacked the debris at Ida as he shielded himself from it and exclaiming, "That's no home run?" However, this was a distraction as Uraraka made it to the bomb and latching onto it like her life depended on it. Secured. No. The weapon? Bakugo eventually came back down to the floor Izuku was on, splatting tons of blood on the floor like some kind of bug being splat by a fly swatter. Thankfully, Endeavor and the others could see the other camera of the weapon still. Seeing as Uraraka had secured the weapon, he pronounced, "Hero Team Yins." Izuku looked up in the sky, comically stepping to the right as Bakugo splat on the floor beside him. Endeavor made it to the scene as he took the boys back to the spectator room as to be graded on their performances. The spectator building, the VIP, is pronounced as Tenya Ida. The 4 stood in a row. Uraraka wasn't willing to look at Izuku right now. Not at that she was mad at him, but he was a bit exposed to say the least. Ida was shocked as Bakugo couldn't have cared less, seeming pretty happy with himself. Izuku had thankfully turned off whatever his ability was so that he didn't blow everyone away by accident. Tsu, however, was confused, putting a finger on her chin. Why not Midoriya or Achiko though? They won? Endeavor put his hands behind his back. Someone please explain to Tsu why we have chosen Ida over Achiko or Midoriya. I will, Endeavor-sensei. Momo raised her hand as she started to elaborate on Ida's VIP status. From what we saw Bakugo and Midoriya's fight, it was a highly destructive fight. The whole reason it ignited at all was from curiosity from Bakugo, which is also the reason why he left Ida to fight for himself. Bakugo rolled his eyes, grumbling a bit. Whatever. They both were very destructive, and then being indoors made it no better. Along with that, despite not being the one who started the fight, Midoriya caused more destruction than Bakugo did at all, especially with that last attack. Izuku looked down in slight shame. She was right. He had fun fighting Bakugo, but that's not what heroes should do. Plus, that last attack pretty much destroyed the whole building. Uraraka comforted him, though, as she gave him a few pats on the back, saying it was really cool. This caused him to cheer up a bit. Uraraka lost her focus midway through, and that final attack was far too hazardous. Such an attack would any too dangerous if the nuclear weapon were real. This caused Uraraka to slump down a bit, but to return the favor, Izuku cheered her up as well, congratulating her for being quick on her feet. Momo then made her way onto Ida. Ida formed an actual counter-strategy to Uraraka's quirk, and he envisioned how the actual struggle would be like. The only reason the hero team won was his late reaction time and exploitable constraints. Ida was touched as he could feel like his soul was ascending to heaven for being praised so much for his hard work. Everyone fell silent. This caused Momo to huff and put her hands on her hips. We've got to start from the bottom if we want to make it up to the top. If we don't earnestly cheer each other on, we'll never be top heroes. Endeavor sweated as he crossed his arms, closing his eyes. I would like to add Ida was a bit stiff, but besides that everything was spot on. She said it better than I could. They chose a new location for battle since the one Team A and D fought in was pretty much reduced to nothing. The next match was Shututu and Shoji against Ojiro and Shinso. Shoto and Shoji waited outside, having a small conversation. Not to sound rude, but is flying all you can do with your quirk? Shoji said, trying to be as nice as humanly possible with a mean sentence like that. Shoto gave him a cold glare. My powers are beyond any of your understanding. To be simple, my pillow is actually. His pillow started to glow as it turned into a spear. A09 1D4 A3 1 ACCC475 6A3 ECF60 F3B0 BD69.jpg. This is Chastyfold. Shoji looked on amazed. Whoa, do you control it? Shoto nodded. Of course I can. He simply pointed his fingers upwards. As it went upward, I can control it with the input of my fingers. Shoji nodded. That's great, but is there a way you can make it less deadly? Shoji said, worried. Shoto will impale somebody in the exercise. Of course I can. The chastifold changed again, this time into a big bear similar to a plush doll. Now come on, let's go in. Shoto walked in, Shoji following. Meanwhile, with Ojiro and Shinso. Alright, I'll go fight them. You alright if you defend this place, Shinso? Shinso, in a cold and harsh demeanor similar to Aizawa, said, it's best if I go fight. My powers have more versatility compared to yours. Which wasn't the nicest way to say it, but Ojiro in his gut felt like he was right. Right before he could even say Shinso was correct. Shinso already was gone, being way too fast. Didn't even let me finish? Ojiro said, slightly pissed at his teammates' attitude. Eventually Todoroki and Shoji found Shinso. Alright, let's get this over with. He started controlling the bear to capture Shinso. In turn, Shinso summoned his weapon Double Bow Harit, as he suddenly has an energy bow on both arms, shooting at Todoroki, but the bear blocked the attack. This wasn't a very good matchup since it was in a confined space in which Todoroki basically had a shield which covered the entire hallway. Eventually Shinso is grabbed by the bear and is unable to escape the bear hug and is apprehended. Shoji, get the cuffs. Shoji, utterly amazed at Shoto's power, nodded, handcuffing Shinso, Shoto dropping him at him. We just need to get to the bomb now. Eventually they made it to the bomb room, Ojiro trying to fight but is also grabbed by Todoroki's bear, and Shoto touches the bomb, winning. Tokoyami and Tsu win against Kirishima and Shiro due to the dark environment buffing Dark Shadow and cause of Tsu's genuine agility. Next match is Denki Kaminari and Jairu Kyoka versus Minoru Mineta and Momo Yayorozu. Mineta, I have something to ask of you. Momo looked down at him with her hands on her waist. Mineta looked up at her and immediately nodded without question. I need you to use your quirk to cover the whole room as a trap and make it as difficult as possible, just in case we need it to come down to timer. What about you? Are you suggesting to fight them by yourself? She nodded, punching her gauntlets against each other. Do not worry, for I have this under control. Kyoka and Denki explained a plan at the bottom floor, figuring out each other's quirks and how to work them into a plan. With my earphone jacks, I can sense the vibrations and small sounds. With that, we can track the bomb. Denki nodded, explaining his own quirk. Once she was done, my quirk's electricity. With it, I can shock people around me, but I kinda can't control it. He tapped his fingers together as he trailed off. I also kinda become stupid when I use it, so that's another drawback. Jiro sighed as she used her earphone jacks to locate the bomb, listening as she suddenly heard footsteps. I hear someone coming. Get ready. Denki and Jiro got into a battle stance as Momo made it down the hall, pointing at the two. I have found you, heroes. I am here to fight you. She got in a battle stance as Jiro, and Denki also got in a fighting stance as Momo gained a smile. I can assure you I will be enough to handle both of you heroes. Jiro, go get cover, right? Jiro ran off as Kaminari charged electricity in his hands. Show him the power of the earth, Momo. All right, Lady Diane. 1.3 million volts. He put all his power into his giant AoE attack as she put her hands together, summoning stone from the earth to stop the attack, completely blocking the attack as once the electricity wore off. She let them down and saw Denki was pretty much defenseless. Way. His brain had seemingly been fried by his own quirk as she simply took out cuffs and walked up to him. To think it would be that easy. Suddenly she heard a blast from the wall as she covered her ears. Ugh? What is that? It was Jiro. She didn't exactly have to worry about hurting Denki as she was trying to stun her to try and escape with Denki. Come on, go down, dash. She groaned as she slammed her foot onto the floor, summoning more rocks. Rush rock. Crap. The stones locked onto Jiro and hitting her as it stopped the soundwave attacks as she was barraged by rocks and knocked out cold. She rubbed her ears as they were still lightly ringing from Jiro's attack, simply cuffing Jiro, and Denki winning for the villain side. Our final battle is Yuya Aoyama and MINNAA Todoroki versus Koji Koda and Rikido Sato. Everyone looked at Endeavor as all they thought was, he did it again. Mina floated a little, seeming less happy, go lucky as usual. Aoyama just trying to be all sparkly and such, which clearly didn't help the situation as it was pretty silent. Finally they got inside as even when Sato tried to fight getting bulked from his sugar rush quirk, This didn't impress the pink alien. Mina angrily summoned her wind. "Out of my way!" she yelled, whipping her hand, causing a wind current that blows Sato into the wall. "WWOAH, what's happening?" Mina simply floated past, which she automatically flew around faster than Aoyama could even run without his navel boosting him. Even then, he would be forced to catch up as it would give him tummy aches. Wait. He struggled to catch up as he couldn't navel boost due to his tummy ache from using his laser. Mina, however, did not wait and simply went forward without just wanting to end this as fast as she possibly could. She eventually found the bomb with Aoyama, who was struggling due to overusage of his naval laser. Their last obstacle was a very fearful and quiet Koda, as he tried to get animals to help him fight. Mina rolled her eyes as she really didn't want to do this because she knew dear old dad was watching her. Simply raising a hand and blowing them all away in a gust of force and securing the bomb. Hero Team Wyans. She stopped the tornado as she bowed gently to Koda and Aoyama. "Sorry about that. I wasn't really in the best mood during this. I hope I didn't go too hard on you guys." It was another day of class. Aizawa-sensei walked in, settling down the class. "Settle down, class. We have another activity today." This made the class wonder what type of activity would it be. Some of the class just prayed it wasn't a training battle, as Izuku, Momo, Shoto, and Mina scared most of the class half to death from fighting or watching them fight, especially when Izuku punched multiple holes in Bakugo. Other than that, those fears were swayed away as Aizawa continued. "You'll be voting for class representative and vice class representative." Most of the class looked very excited besides Izuku, who wasn't very enthusiastic about it. Same goes for Shoto, Bakugo, and Shinso. This was cause none of them were really looking forward to being a class leader. Izuku cause he didn't think he could and doubted his abilities cause what class would want a berserk leader. Bakugo didn't care cause he was way too laid back and didn't exactly like the prospect of being leader. Shoto didn't care cause he's Shoto, and Shinso didn't care cause he found it as a waste of time. "Just figure it out yourselves. I'm going to bed. If someone isn't made representative by the time I wake up, I'll decide myself," Aizawa said, zipping up his sleeping bag and laying down to go to bed. Kirishima made a confused expression. Wouldn't people be able to vote for themselves? But Mina happily said, "That means they must have really deserved it." Everyone agreeing with Mina's statement. Everyone was talking about what they'd do if they became the class representative. This made it all the more chaotic when eventually voting. Izuku just looked on at everyone, being very shocked at how much people, including Ida, wanted this position, as Ida and Izuku yelled, everyone calm down," as this caused everyone to look at the two. "We need to vote, so we should vote in a non-biased manner. You can vote for yourself, but it's better to be honest with yourself and give it to people who you think deserve it more than yourself." Everyone agreed. The votes came in, the results being Izuku Midoriya 3 votes, Momo Yaoyorozu 2 votes, everyone else having 1 vote. Izuku looked in shock as he yelled, "How did I get 3 votes? Bakugo smiled. "I voted for ya. You seemed fit for the job, Uraraka," and Shinso nodded. Izuku and Yaoyorozu went up, as Aizawa just woken up saying, "Well, these are your class representatives. I hope you're all proud of your decision." Everyone is pretty happy with this, as some people said, "This makes lots of sense," and saying, "I can see it," although Izuku doesn't think he'd be very good for a class representative. Lunchtime, Izuku ate with Bakugo and Uraraka along with Ida, as he seemed very out of it to say the least, as Uraraka looked at him. "Midoriya-kun, what's wrong?" Izuku snapped out of it as he stated, "I just don't think I can handle the class representative job. Remember the last time I simply fought with my power-up? I ended up severely wounded Bakugo. It's less dire cause Bakugo has regeneration, but if it were anyone else, just think of what I potentially could have done if it were someone else. Don't worry about it. If you had enough self-awareness to still understand everything and hold back, I'm sure you wouldn't have killed anyone, so cut yourself some slack," Bakugo said, putting his arm around his neck. Izuku sighing, "Still, besides that, I just don't think I'm exactly enough to take this job. Ida or Yaoyorozu would have been a better pick than myself." Suddenly, an alarm went off as everyone scrambled to leave. We followed suit, unfortunately getting basically trampled by the crowd. "TCH, Bakugo, Uraraka-san," I yelled out as students pushed and shoved us and smothering us in the crowd. The hell could cause everyone to start pissing themselves. Bakugo yelled, also getting basically trampled. Midoriya-kun, I heard Uraraka struggle with her words as she was also being pushed with the crowd, as she looked outside seeing the press. It's just the press. But why did the siren go off? Uraraka asked herself as she was bumped into by Ida, stopping her train of thought. Ow, I apologize, Uraraka-kun, Ida said, struggling to really move. I started to hear Ida yelled, Uraraka, make Ida float and Ida get to the exit using your engines. Then Izuku heard Uraraka's quirk go off as Ida floated upwards. He then rocketed to the top of the exit door using his engines as he yelled, Everyone calm down. It is simply the press and the teachers are dealing with it. This is no way for a UA student to act. We are better than this. So let us calm down and enjoy our lunch. Everyone seemingly calmed down as now, in a more formulated manner, they went back to eat lunch. Outside of UA, Midnight and some other UA faculty went overseeing that most of the UA barrier. How the hell did they get through the barrier? It couldn't have been the press, but someone with evil intent. Midnight looked on, very intrigued. It seems the villains are resurfacing. This year may get ugly. After lunch, Izuku fully recognized himself as the class president. The class sat in anticipation about what they possibly could be doing now. Their teacher Aizawa walked up in the front of the class in his usual tired and serious tone. Today we'll be going on a trip, so you can fulfill a foundation of skill. Rescuing people. Everyone got excited to finally start rescuing people. Later, everyone was outside the bus, waiting for some people to come so they could go get in the bus, as Izuku also came late, dressed in his gym attire. This confused Uraraka a bit as she questioned him. Midoriya, aren't you gonna wear your hero costume? He looked at her and rubbed the back of his head, nervously smiling. Well, I would've. But that thing basically got torn to shreds, remember? Oh right. Well, how long is it gonna take for it to get fixed? He deeply sighed and slumped over a bit. Well, they said they were gonna give it a bit of upgrades so I wouldn't constantly have to go back and fix it. It might take a couple of months for it to get fixed. Before they could continue their talk, Aizawa called them into the bus and take their seats so they could get going to the USJ. Now that you're all seated, let's get going. I don't want to waste any time. The bus started driving off towards the USJ. In the meanwhile, all the students did was talk about each other's quirks. This was a bit of a touchy topic for poor Izuku. I generally say what's on my mind, Midoriya. He was a bit perplexed as he turned to the frog girl. What is it, Azui? The frog girl quickly corrected him as she asked to be called Tsu instead of her last name, which confused the boy, but he wasn't exactly uncomfortable. But then suddenly she dropped a bombshell on the boy without him having time to think. What is your quirk, Midoriya? His eyes widened as now he was in a predicament. He didn't exactly have a name for his quirk because, well, he didn't have one. His power is the result of him being born a completely different race. What the hell was he supposed to say here? Just tell his classmates that, oh yeah, I'm just an entirely different race than you guys. Like anyone would believe something as ridiculous as that. It didn't help. Tsu was basically listing every power he's shown them so far: super strength, speed, durability, possibly regeneration, and whatever power he used to one-shot Bakugo. He also has some cool purple fire power he used back in the entrance exam. He destroyed the giant zero-pointer like Wabam. Wapow! She did a punching motion as this only caused Izuku to panic even more. As much as he appreciated Uraraka for remembering that, it doesn't help his current situation at the moment. Well, that's another add-on to your abilities, Ribbit. Izuku went into deep thought about this. Eventually he came up with an explanation as a sort of cover-up. I actually have two quirks. One of them is my Oinks Flames. He lifted his hand and activated his Oinks Flames, trying not to burn anyone around him by accident. They're really hot and destructive. That's why I didn't exactly use it in the hero versus villain exam. Though looks like that didn't change all that much. I see, Ribbit. My second quirk is called Destructive Swirl. It enhances all my physical abilities and gives me the marking on my forehead, though if I suppress my power, the swirl disappears. It only shows back up when I stop holding back. That part was a half-lie. It was a power-up rather than suppressing his power. I knew you were holding back on me till the end. Thought you could win without going all out, huh? That's not it at all. I just didn't want to create unnecessary damages. Two quirks are really cool. I am pretty good at combat, but I don't have a flashy quirk like Todoroki or Mina. Izuku interjected, however, sounding a lot more serious. So, being a hero isn't about having a flashy quirk. Look at Aizawa-sensei, he's a prime example, which brightened the red hair boy's look. I guess you're right. Then I'll strive to be a lot better, he said with determination burning in his eyes. Eventually the class had made their way to the USJ and stepped out of the bus. The building was huge. Heya, I'm 13. Welcome to the unforeseen simulation joint, which was met by the fangirling of a brown-haired brunette. Whoa, the rescue hero 13. Izuku laughed a tiny bit, finding it sorta cute. Is she your favorite hero, Uraraka? Yeah. 13 continued to explain to reason on what they would be improving on here. You will use this place to utilize your quirks with a method of saving rather than fight. As you can utilize with every possible scenario, she was cut off by Aizawa. Yeah. 13, I need to speak with you personally. 13 nodded. After Aizawa seemingly whispered to her something. They went on inside after that. As they looked around, it was an amazing sight. A better thing was that Endeavor made it over, so everyone was hyped, but then a dark portal opened up, many villains walking out of the portal. A blue ashy man stood, seemingly the leader of the gang. Aizawa got ready, same with Endeavor, as they jumped down to start fighting the villains. 13 protected the students from the misty portal man, however, it was proved futile as he teleported everyone to a random area. The flood area. Izuku woke up, deep in water, as he looked around, being attacked by a shark villain as he dodged an attack, one-shotting him, but then was surrounded by more. Then he was saved by Tsu as she brought him out the water as he finally breathed. What the hell? We're surrounded, Izuku said, looking at the boat as the only people with him were Tsu and Shinso. Yeah, we're surrounded by multiple water-based villains, so now we need to make a plan to get out of here. Izuku nodded. First, we need to know each other's quirks, so we can possibly formulate a plan to escape and take out as many as possible. Shinso and Tsu nodded, Tsu also replying, but we also have an advantage. They don't know our quirks. If they did, I wouldn't be here. Ribbit. Izuku gained a smile. You're right. Shinso looked at him as if he interrupted something, and Izuku apologized. Shinso fixed his voice and went on. My quirk allows me to cast a bad illusion over someone, sort of like a nightmare, which could lead to knocking them unconscious or weakening them. I can also overwrite and change memories, but it lasts for a short amount of time. My name is Tsuyu Azui. My quirk is Frog. Ribbit. It gives me all the attributes of a frog, meaning I can swim, jump high, and more. Ribbit. Izuku went up next but half-assed his explanation, but then went into more detail. My quirk is superhuman, aka gives me strength, speed, etc. My second quirk is a power-up that requires control, but lets me use Oink's flames hotter than normal fire and blue fire, I think. After a while, the villains were thinking of just destroying the boat, until Izuku jumped off the boat high in the air as he punched the water, causing a giant shockwave. This created a whirlpool as he then concentrated his power as he created Oink's flames, giving the villains his wrath as it merged with the whirlpool, turning it into a fiery whirlpool, as he also used these flames to propel himself to Tsu as she grabbed Izuku with her tongue. Meanwhile, while those three and the other students were fighting, their teachers weren't having a good time, as while they easily handled the chumps, the beast was the thing giving them trouble as it was fire resistant, which was basically a counter to Endeavor. Endeavor grabbed the Nomu's face as he yelled, "Take this, everything I have." As he started to burn the Nomu, eventually the flames turned blue, but he was just gut punched as he held his stomach. Shigaraki looked over disappointed. Where is he? As Endeavor looked up in confusion. Who are you talking about even? As Nomu proceeded to slam his face in the ground. I mean the real number one hero, the one who defeated my master. Endeavor didn't understand, but then he remembered all those years ago. A man with yellow hair with a lion on his back who defeated All for One in a close fight. He hadn't seen the man in years since he became the number one hero. He'd swore on his name he would do anything to surpass him, but it seemed as if the gap was just as big as years ago. I don't know. He grit his teeth, just the thought of that man who bested him, the number one hero, so easily, and that his training basically made no difference to if they fought now. He probably was barely equal to 1% of All for One's true power. But I would rather die than tell villain scum like you. He metaphorically spat on the ground. Fine. Guess you won't help in finding his son then, so I should kill you. As then Endeavor's eyes widened. Son? Who are you talking about? He's probably in this school. He is a boy with green and black hair, green eyes, and a SWO. Suddenly Izuku was heard yelling as the blue-haired man looked up, seeing the son of his master envelope with pure rage. NOMU. Nomu got in the way as he slammed his fist in Nomu's face, creating a giant smoke cloud in its wake. Once the dust had cleared, Nomu had caught Izuku's punch though from what it looked like. It was struggling to hold the punch back as cued from its visible shaking. I'll show you what happens. When you hurt Endeavor-sensei, he activated his demon mark as he roared, trying to break through the Nomu and deal with the villain in front of him. The blue-haired man grinned as he scratched his neck. Yes, yes, yes. This is who he was looking for. Right in front of him, Nomu. Be a deer and deal with this pest. Nomu roared as it raised Izuku in the air and aggressively slammed him on the ground with an excessively amount of force. Awk! Izuku coughed up blood, his marking disappearing as he bounced off the floor, rolling over. Now Nomu, I will need you to pick up the boy for me and take him with us. The Nomu did as ordered as he slowly walked over to Izuku and lifting his hand to grab him, till it got speared through the stomach and thrown into the lake area nearby. It squealed in pain as it made a giant splash. You seemed in trouble, Midoriya. Izuku got up as he held his arm, blood pouring from it as he panted. Why yeah. Thanks, Todoroki. He turned to his right and saw his father also writhing in pain as he got up, hunched over as he coughed a tad bit. I hope you know I was doing this to protect my classmates. It had nothing to do with you. Endeavor didn't fully care as he gave an exasperated thank you to his son. He had gotten new information. He can't share it to the class as to not ruin Izuku's reputation, but he could explain. As Shoto, I need you and the others to look after Midoriya. The villains are looking to capture him. Shoto nodded as the Nomu burst out the water in a fit of rage. Squealing in anger, it had taken on a new monstrous form. With a new darker red hue and horns, it had also grew in size. This could be trouble. Then you're gonna need some help, aren't ya? Bakugo had emerged from his collapsed city zone, cracking his neck a bit as he looked at the monster. So this is the thing we're fightin'? Man, this thing looks completely disgusting, he chuckled, cracking his knuckles as he grinned. Thankfully though, those goons this guy had set up gave me a pretty good warm-up. I think I got all the rust shaken off. Izuku reactivated his demon mark as he stood with Todoroki and Bakugo, taking out his sword. Let's go you two, right? Oh yeah. Izuku, Bakugo, and Todoroki charged towards the Nomu. The Nomu roaring at them as it charged at them. It swung a punch at Izuku as he slid under it, kicking it up against the beak. Bakugo following up by catching it mid-air and slamming it on the ground. It then jumped up and aggressively swung its fist at Bakugo and backhanded him, sending him very far back. Todoroki flew around it as he split Chastifol into multiple tiny kunai, stabbing it at multiple angles, causing it to roar and flex the kunai away. Izuku lit his sword with his oink's flames as he swung his sword, creating a track of burn marks on the ground. Enchant! Hellblaze! The Nomu was hit head-on as it screeched out in pain, running towards Izuku on all fours, but was stopped by Bakugo putting it in a rear-end choke. Just go down already, damn it! The Nomu screeched out as it struggled to escape Bakugo's grasp, and before it could attack Bakugo, it was suddenly brought up by a rock pillar as it was slammed against the roof. Is everyone alright? I had to help Ida evacuate to get the pros before I got here. Izuku looked at her as he just had remembered the rest of his class was in major danger. Yaoyorozu, is the of the class okay? Yes, they are all right. 13. Shinso and Mina are currently stalling the portal villain who brought everyone here. We just need to beat this thing before they get back up. The rock pillar started shaking as the Nomu broke free as boulders and rocks fell to the ground. Well, let's finish this. Let's kick some ass, all four of us together. I don't condone such language, but I will do what I can to help. Izuku, Momo, and Bakugo charged in, attacking it together as he got a nice slash on it with his sword, Momo and Bakugo following up with a strong punch to its stomach. This only enraged the Nomu further as when Momo went to kick it, it grabbed her by the leg and started to spin her around, smacking Izuku and Bakugo with her body as they both were sent back. Todoroki grimaced as he didn't know how to attack it without also hurting Momo. Damn it! It's holding her around. How can I attack it if I end up hurting her? Todoroki! Attack it! I don't care if I get hurt. He hesitated a bit as he lowered his hand a tad bit. Yaoyorozu, just do it. He grimaced as he didn't want to hurt his classmate, but he had seemingly no other choice as he attacked it with the best he could. Fight fire with fire. He rained down his full army of kunai down at the Nomu. Momo thankfully had a plan for this as her skin suddenly turned metallic, as to protect her from the kunai as best it could. Heavy metal! The kunai rained down on them both, the Nomu roaring in pain while Momo was blocking them completely fine. Thanks to heavy metal they blunted on her skin. Suddenly the Nomu started clutching its head with one hand, throwing Momo into Todoroki as she slammed into the boy. Ugh! Oof! They skidded on the floor as Momo deactivated heavy metal, lying on top of the dual-haired boy as she frantically got up. Ah! Todoroki, are you all right? He got up, groaning as he clutched his stomach in pain. I'm fine. That trick where you turned your skin metal was a good tactic to blunt the blows. As sharp as ever, Yaoyorozu. She smiled a bit at the compliment, but before they could continue they looked back at the Nomu and saw it roaring in pain. They suddenly noticed the kunai in its brain as it frantically seemed like it tried to get it out, screeching in pain the entire time. Izuku took notice as he looked at the other three and yelled at her with urgency in his voice. Everyone, attack it while it's open. Right! Momo got back up as she put her hand on the floor as she concentrated with all her might to give the strongest attack she could. Izuku did as well as he gripped his sword tightly, the embers of the demon clans growing stronger. Bakugo ran at the thing with the intent to stall, using its weakened state as an opportunity to abuse Snatch's capabilities as he buffed up and hold it down for the others. Come on buddy, you and me! As the Nomu roared, Bakugo held its hands as he and the Nomu started to wrestle. Its brain spewed out a purple liquid which was likely its blood. No way! They're actually pushing my Nomu back. This shouldn't be happening. Bakugo then roared at the other three in desperation. Do it now! Suddenly the Nomu was launched upward by stone, then crushed in between two other stone formations. Take this! Todoroki stood next to Momo as he rained down more kunai on the Nomu which caused it to squeal. Midoriya! Right! He charged at the Nomu running as fast as he possibly could as he gritted his teeth. Now show em Izuku. Show them what a real hero can do. Ra'ea! He cut straight through the Nomu in a dark fiery explosion as it was then crushed by the rocks and completed shredded by the kunai. They did it. They won. The top of Izuku and Bakugo's gym uniforms were in complete tatters as they both breathed heavily. Woohoo! We did it! Bakugo cheered as he laid on the ground slightly far from where the Nomu was destroyed as he cackled a bit. Momo got up as she took a few deep breaths herself along with Todoroki, as they looked at each other. Thank you, Todoroki. We couldn't have done it without you. She softly smiled at him. This caused his eyes to widen a bit as he slightly smiled back at her. I appreciate that, Yaoyorozu. Endeavor watched them celebrate as he only looked on and thought to himself about everything. These kids sure is something else. Despite the happiness and relief that was going on, there was a man particularly infuriated at this outcome. No. No, no, no. You cheated, you all cheated. The other four looked back at him as he started to go on a rant in front of them. Heroes and villains use violence to protect our comrades. What you call hero society is nothing more than just an oppressive mess that makes heroes just to create more violence. The Warp Gate villain suddenly appeared beside the blue-haired man, trying to assure him, calm down, Tamura. We can still finish our mission from how much damage they've all taken. Which he was definitely right. All of them had taken a significant amount of damage from Nomu and are pretty much running on fumes. As the villain, now known to them as Tamura, charged at them with an intent to kill in his run, they all prepared themselves to fight again. That is until, whoosh, Tamura was blown away by a gust of strong wind, rolling onto the floor and groaning. TCH. You pink little. Mina slowly floated down as she held her hand out with Shinso following after without 13. Shinso, Mina. What happened to 13? She was heavily damaged in the fight. We got her to a safe place, so she can rest while we tried to deal with the portal villain. You may have gotten away before, but not this time, Mina said sternly as she swiped her hand and aggressively forced another gust of wind against Tamura and Kurogiri. Ugh, Master Tamura? She turned to the others, sweating as she floated over to them. Geez, you guys got all roughed up. That's because we were actually fighting the big bad Ano, Bakugo remarked as he rubbed his head. His wounds were healing, but he was still in a sort of pain. Mina frowned and crossed her arms as she floated in his face. Well, excuse me for being worried about my friends. She flicked Bakugo's nose as she pouted and crossed her arms in an almost childlike manner, which pissed Bakugo off. This sort of thing pissed off Tamura further. It's like he wasn't even there? Pay attention to him, damn it. Everyone, I have arrived with the pro heroes. Tamura and Kurogiri looked on as they were in the current worst scenario ever. The pros arrived. Their ace in the hole was defeated. They didn't capture the boy they were trying to bring to their master, and they didn't even kill the #1 hero. As if to rub salt in the wound, Tamura was shot in the leg as he groaned in pain, falling on one knee and grimacing. Shit, we may not have been able to kill Endeavor today because of you brats. But mark my words, we will come back. They warped away and escaped capture. Outside of the building, Class 1A left the building and was gathered to check if anyone was injured. The ones injured were mostly Todoroki, Momo, Izuku, Bakugo, Endeavor, 13 and Aizawa. Bakugo eventually regenerated from his wounds as he shrugged it off. The others, though, were more injured. Izuku, Shoto, Momo, and etc. were being treated back at UA. The authorities took whatever they could from the crime scene as the students and Endeavor had described the monster as almost demonic. They would inspect this further. The lead detective, Naomasa Tsukachi, described the condition of everyone wounded in the incident. Endeavor and Aizawa were completely smashed up and faces were fractured. Aizawa had gotten the worst of it as his eye sockets were pulverized and he had splinters all over his face. Surprisingly, neither of them had any brain damage. Aizawa could possibly suffer from long-term vision loss. This caused the students to grimace as Tsukachi tried to cheer them up by saying that's just what he heard from the police department. What about Midoriya and Momo? What about my brother too? Mina and Uraraka were obviously nervous about their own friends and family's well-being after this incident. Meanwhile, Bakugo was right there. Thanks to his regeneration, he was pretty much unharmed after this whole thing. Well, your classmates did suffer injuries, but nothing too serious. It's nothing recovery girl cannot fix, I assure you. They all calmed down a tad bit as Tsukachi brought them all back to the classroom, while the aforementioned Izuku, Momo, Todoroki, and Endeavor were rested in the nurse's office. Back in UA, Tsukachi visited the four as he greeted Endeavor. Heya Endeavor, long time no see. Endeavor looked surprised upon seeing Tsukachi as he greeted him as well. Tsukachi, I have a question. How are the others doing? They're doing fine. The other two pros are out of danger for now. If you three weren't there, I'm sure that they wouldn't have made it out unscathed. Endeavor looked at him and grimaced, tugging at the bed sheets. I appreciate that you think so highly of me, when the fact of the matter is the students also risked their life there as well. This surprised Izuku, Momo, and Shoto as they looked at him. These kids were thrown out into battle at such a young age and had to survive it all. Some of them even fought against the monster that brought me down. They all know how scary and dark the world can be. Have you ever heard of such powerful students? He took a deep breath as he looked at the three of them with a slight smile. I assure you Class 1A are going to be heroes that surpass even me. While Momo and Izuku were honored at this, Todoroki was less than thrilled. There went on again about surpassing him. It was annoying. If he had surpassed him, it had been ages ago. It infuriated him how far this old man would go to push his ideals onto him. Izuku was at the beach once again, trying out his different powers using his dragon-handled blade. The beach's sunset was a beautiful sight to behold. 8783374CF9 6B869 1797693400604.jpg. Though that didn't stop the literal demon child from getting caught up in his own thoughts and deep training. He wanted to take this single day off of school to train himself and better himself so that he could be stronger in case anything like the Nomu in the USJ came back. Someone's training hard. Course I do. I have to get stronger, especially after the fight with that Nomu, is what Midoriya said. However, he underestimated Meliodas' intellect, as the blonde could tell. Izuku seemed anxious about something that he clearly didn't want to say or think out loud. He sighed. Okay. What's up, Izuku? What do you mean? He tried to lie, but then was hit with the cold, hard reality that the midget could practically see all his thoughts because he lives in his subconscious after all. Ever since that Nomu stuff, you've been less enthusiastic and happy. What's the matter, kid? This caused the green demon to sigh, deactivating his demon mark and sitting down on the sand, hugging his legs. I've been thinking. Did that monster really used to be a monster? Meliodas could already see where this was going, as he tried to explain it the best way he could. Taking a deep sigh, "This may get ugly." "Don't sigh at me. You know what I mean." It had a human brain, human body, and more human-like qualities. He thought back to it. He hadn't put much thought, but before the Nomu had transformed, it was slightly humanoid. Yeah, I know that. I don't know whatever it was experimented with. They were given demon blood. Izuku raised an eyebrow, confused at what his blood had to do with this. What does that mean? When a human consumes demon blood, they are physically enhanced, but at a cost of losing their sanity and turning into a demonic creature. However, it also confused Meliodas as he started to question what made that Nomu so different. However, that Nomu turned into a red demon instead of some indiscriminate monster. Did that villain make an artificial red demon? Meliodas had a theory, whatever they had done to that Nomu, and if it did used to be a human, turning it into that Nomu and then feeding demon blood caused a sort of chain reaction which recreated a red demon, and it wasn't just that. It was stronger than an actual red demon was. Maybe. Does that mean they can artificially recreate other demon types? Meliodas had taught Izuku on the basic demon types, the red one, gray demons, and Howlex, so he had a decent level of understanding about this. Possibly. But that doesn't change the fact it used to be still human. Izuku, I know you may be disturbed, but you did what you had to do. There's nothing wrong with that. This didn't satisfy Izuku though. He felt like he could have done more. If he was simply stronger, this wouldn't have happened. What if that person had a family? Meliodas, we could have saved that person and brought him back to his family. Izuku, you have to believe me that it was beyond reverting. It was basically a demon dash. He simply looked down and rubbed his sword in the sand as he thought about it. How would we know if we didn't try? It kind of hurt Meliodas to have to tell him this. He knew Izuku meant well and wanted to help everyone. Having to do this twice at age 15 must have really put a toll on Izuku's mentality and outlook. There's no changing the past. All we can do is focus on the future, and hey, next time we can really show those guys who's boss. Hearing this, Izuku got back up and ready to train, gaining back his resolve to keep training. You're right. I can't get sloppy. Izuku decided to continue his training somewhat, evolving his demon mark further due to his constant rigorous training. D2F5CD77DAF344B9AC7322D75CB5597B.jpg. The mark now has grown in width and his pupils now had a pinkish tint in them. He was helped by the fact they had a day off to train caused the incident in the USJ. Meliodas constantly giving tips and basically being his own free instructor made him grow at a rapid rate. He also knew his classmates would likely train so that they could grow beyond their limits and become stronger. He checked his phone and eventually saw what time it was. It was almost midnight. Oh, no. MOM is gonna be so worried. He put his sword back as he frantically rushed back to his house as to not keep his mother waiting longer than she needs to. At home, Izuku's mother, Inko Midoriya, looked at the food worryingly as her son hasn't came home yet, since he said he was going to train hours ago, which caused her to think of all the possibilities. Oh no! What if he got kidnapped? What if he went with a total stranger? Or. Her heart couldn't take all the possibilities of danger her son was in until eventually. Mom, I'm sorry I'm late. He gently opened the door, walking inside and closing it behind him. Izuku, I was so worried. Midoriya sighed, sitting at the table. I'm sorry. I got too caught up in training dash. Well, as long as you're okay, it's fine. They sat at the table starting to eat the food his mom cooked. Thankfully, it hasn't gone cold yet. But while Izuku was eating, his mom did what other moms would do and dropped a bombshell. So, honey, can I ask you something? Yeah, Mom. Are you interested in any girl at school at all? Izuku's eyes bulged out of their sockets as he nearly choked on his food. Why would she say that out of nowhere? Was she trying to kill him? What? No, of course not. That's ridiculous. I don't know, sweetie. I see you texting someone a lot. You seem really happy when you do it too. Crap? She figured out that he's been texting Uraraka, well, Bakugo and Ida too, but mostly Uraraka? Was he that obvious? So, who's the lucky gal, my sweet boys? Interesting, Ian? I'm not dating anyone, Mom. Okay, just don't be afraid to tell me though. I'll support you all the way. He smiled as he heard that, at least if he did have a crush on a girl, that his mom would always give him love and support. Eventually, he finished eating as got up, pushing in his chair. Thanks for the meal, Mom. I'm gonna be heading off to bed now. She waved him off and smiled gently, tilting her head slightly. All right. Good night, Zuzu. He smiled back at her. Good night. He went back to his room and laid in his bed. However, something told him that he was going to be in a rude awakening once he made it back to school. 2 weeks earlier. Sports festival? That's totally ordinary. Come on. A villain attack and this back-to-back. Are you sure about this? Aizawa was heavily bandaged when he was explaining this, which was already very concerning as he barely looked like he had time to rest. He explained to everyone that it was supposed to be a demonstration of UA's crisis protocols as he went to talk about the festival more. Compared to past years, there'll be 5 times the police presence. Anyhow, our sports festival is the great opportunity you'll get. The sports festival was the biggest event in Japan, but now things had changed. It was now the UA Sports Festival which had taken place of the Olympics. This'll mean scouts will be there. Top nation heroes, correct. Momo seemed very excited at the thought of a top-class hero seeing what she was able to do. Unlike Mineta, who was seeming to get more nervous by the minutes passing. This happens once a year, so you got 3 chances. If you want to become a hero, this is something you cannot miss. The entire class was excited at the thought of the sports festival. After the 4th period had finished and it was time for lunch, everyone was just talking about it non-stop. However, a girl in particular was very determined to show her stuff. Midoriya, Bakugo, Ida. She had a battle aura just oozing off of her, which was heavily unsettling to Izuku and Ida as they had never seen this side of her before. Uraraka, are you alright? You're not looking very, Uraraka. Even Mina showed her concern, and before Mineta could even speak a word, Sue slapped the hell out of him with her tongue. Everyone, I am gonna crush this. Yeah, we're gonna fuck shit up. Uraraka and Bakugo seemed to have matched each other's energy after long last. All while Izuku and Ida supported them in the back. Actually, now that I think of it, I've never asked Uraraka. You want to become a hero for the money? Ultimately, yeah. She was clearly nervous from answering such a question as explained by her furious head rubbing. Sorry, I know it seems base and really embarrassing considering Ida's noble motivations and all. This caused Ida to start doing weird hand movements while comforting her. But why? There aren't any problems with seeking a more comfortable lifestyle. Yeah, it's just a bit unexpected. Living a chill and stable life ain't bad enough. She started to rustle through her hair as she avoided eye contact with the 3 boys. My family runs a construction company, but business is bad. We're poorer than poor. Don't mention that to anyone, please. Izuku and Ida started thinking while Bakugo simply kept his hands in his pockets. Not to be rude, but isn't it kind of stupid to not use your quirk to cut cost? I was gonna say something like that. Yeah, it would. But she trailed off and started to remember something. Flashback. You want to work for the family? Yeah. When I grow up, I want to help mommy and daddy. Her dad exhaled softly as he gently squatted down to her level and put a hand on her head. That's real sweet, Ochako. But what'd be even sweeter is if my baby girl follows her own dreams instead. In the present, Uraraka started to grip onto her skirt as the other boys stared at her, waiting for her to go on. When that day comes, you can take us on a vacation to Hawaii. Present. She looked at them with a look of determination. I want to become a hero so I can make that money, so my mom and dad can have easier lives. Ida congratulated her, while Izuku and Bakugo stared not out of anything malicious but understanding. So she doesn't just idolize heroes. She's thinking of the practical benefits. Hey, listen, there's nothing wrong with making your parents' lives easier. Bravo, Uraraka. Bravo. Eventually, they made their way to the lunchroom and grabbed some lunch and ate together. After school, the school day was over and students were ready to go home. Izuku and Uraraka talked a bit about the event some more. I can't believe we got 2 weeks till the festival. I just can't wait to get all up in there. Yeah, me too. Being watched by so many pros is gonna be a great motivator. They opened the door and they were being blocked off from exiting by hundreds of students. What's going on? No way out. What are they here for? Bakugo simply passed by Mineta, hands in his pockets as per usual. They must be scoping out the competition. I mean, we are the class who survived a villain attack. Izuku and Uraraka side eyed each other as they could feel Bakugo was being arrogant. Not exactly on purpose, but still arrogant. Hey, can all of you move out the way, please? We kinda can't leave because of you guys. Izuku tried to ask nicely, but they didn't seem to take a hint. Actually, one of them came out of the crowd to speak. Well, if it isn't Class 1A. Sitting on your high horse, as per usual it seems. It was a blonde-haired boy with a shit-eating grin on his face. It's true that we came to look at you, but from the looks of it, we won't need to be worrying about much. This guy rubbed Izuku the wrong way. Bakugo was also getting annoyed, and even the people in the back of the class could hear it from how loud the boy was talking. If this is what Class A has to offer, then it really is a big disappointment, isn't it? Shoto actually flew up from behind Bakugo and Izuku as he heard this boy talk, wanting to see who exactly was shit-talking their class. Those of us who weren't able to make the cut were sadly banished to the realm of general studies and such. However, he grinned at them, clearly trying to test them and annoy them as best as he possibly could. If we do good enough in the festival, they might consider knocking off one of you in order to give a real hero a chance. Consider this a declaration of war. Then from nowhere another student popped out from the crowd. Oi! I am also from Class 1B next door. I was curious, so I wanted to check, but all I am seeing are a bunch of wet noodles. This had officially soured the mood of all of the boys. Bakugo, however, was the first to speak up about it. Wet noodles, if you want to talk so much shit. How about you fight us? Me and these two against all of you. I am sure you'll understand how we run this shit. This caused everyone else to pretty much riot and boo the class. In a single confrontation, Bakugo had single-handedly ruined their reputation in the matter of moments. Talk about world record timing. Izuku sighed as Shoto just seemed indifferent to all of it. Well, someone had to say it, and I'm glad it didn't have to be me. Midoriya, I am sorry that yellow guy just annoyed me a lot, okay? Despite this, Izuku realized this isn't something he can't just not try his best at. Everyone wanted to give it their all and do the best he could. He would be disrespectful and disingenuous to everyone else's attempt at being a real hero. And so, 2 weeks went by and the class trained as hard as they could, but most of the others trained with Izuku, Bakugo, Todoroki, and Momo in mind. They wanted to get to that level and even surpass it. 2 weeks later, Class 1A prep room. Is everyone good and ready? The event's about to begin. Izuku stretched a bit. He wasn't allowed to bring his sword, so he was going bare-fisted with this one. Midoriya, he turned to see Todoroki, hands in his pockets floating slightly. What is it, Todoroki? Objectively speaking, I'm stronger than you, more capable. This gained a slight shocked reaction out of Izuku. He was seemingly on good terms with Shoto, but apparently it wasn't as it seemed. Huh? Where the hell did this come from? Todoroki squinted as he exposed the sin of sloth tattoo. Whatever this is something me, you, Bakugo, Momo, and Shinso have in common, a birthmark in shape of one of the 7 deadly sins. Izuku's eyes widened as he exposed his own sin of wrath marking on his arm. I can see that, but does that have to do with this? From what I can tell, all 5 of us are on seemingly equal footing with each other, but I can promise you, I am stronger. He reformed Chastifol into its original form as he floated up slightly. This isn't just a declaration of war against you. I'm declaring war on Bakugo, Momo, and Hitoshi too. This shocked the entire class. A 5-way war between the strongest in their class? Felt like hell was about to break loose. Kirishima, however, was worried at the sudden hostility in the room from Todoroki, putting a hand on his shoulder. Come on, man, the festival's about to start. No need to pick fights or dash. Todoroki cut him off, not even looking in his direction. I'm not pretending to be anyone's friend here. Mina already knew what this was about. Shoto wasn't doing this for no reason. He was doing this because he knew their dad, Endeavor, would be watching. Bakugo, Momo, and Hitoshi respectively stood up and walked over as they all confronted each other. You know, I've been looking forward to beating you since seeing how strong you were at the USJ. I can't wait. This'll be interesting to say the least, but I promise you I will win. I won't lose to you, Todoroki. I'll be going for the win with everything I have as well. I promise you I will give it everything I got, Todoroki. Todoroki simply nodded, tilting his head a bit. Right at the stadium, President Mike was announcing the start of the sports festival as he started to hype up the class. First up, you know who I'm talking about. The miraculous rising stars that brushed off a villain attack with sheer steely willpower. The first years of the hero course. It's Class A. The class walked out of the hallway as the crowd cheered for them. They're really giving us too much credit. What do you think about it, Bakubro? Kirishima was clearly humble and felt as if they didn't do as much as the others did. Nah, it's just hyping me up more. However, the other classes thought the opposite, as some of them just couldn't get motivated knowing they only were here to hype up the main class. Now for the athlete's oath. C9 F49 F65 BDB8 F2 F67 B5 B66 F6 1B2 15C.jpg. Tokoyami noticed as he stared at from the 18+ rated hero from afar. Should she really be wearing that and teaching students? Quiet. Now your representative for this will be Izuku Midoriya. Once hearing this, Izuku completely froze up. He didn't know he would have to speak up for the whole class in front of hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people. Hey! He felt a hand on his shoulder as he looked and saw it was Uraraka. You got this, Midori. Do your best. She came up with that nickname during the last 2 weeks before the festival. That aside, everyone from the class actually started to support him and gave him confidence to go up. If anyone can do it, it's definitely you. You'll do fine. I'm sure you'll do great. And so much more. He honestly felt touched. He didn't think the class supported him this much, and he felt so happy. This felt like he was getting support from a family member like his mom. Knock him dead, Izuku. He took a deep inhale as he slowly walked up to the pedestal as Midnight gave him space to speak. The athlete's oath is for everyone try their best and give it everything they got to achieve their dreams. Clap. He heard a clap. Then another and another and another and another and another. So many people actually liked the speech. He was honestly touched. While there were some definitely thinking this was some kind of ploy or way to throw them off or something like that, most people actually liked it. Izuku made his way off the podium as he felt invigorated and knew that he needed to go all out to follow his own oath. Now, without any delay, let us get on to the first event. Now, students, it's time for the first real event of the preliminaries. And that is, the screen scrolled through multiple different events, eventually stopping, however. Obstacle course race. A gate slowly started to open up as Midnight explained what the race was. It's a race between all 11 classes. The course is a 4-kilometer lap around the stadium itself. Everyone got towards the gate as she giggled a bit, a hand on her mouth. Our school preaches freedom in all things. Foo foo foo. As long as you stay in track, everything is fair game. Izuku got in a stance to ready himself to run. Taking a deep breath, remembering Todoroki's declaration. Flashback. This isn't just a declaration of war against you. This is towards Bakugo, Momo, and Hitoshi as well. Present. I'll show you, Todoroki. Ding, ding, ding. I'll overwhelm you. Start. As they started, suddenly they were left to realize the situation at hand. The starting gate was way too damn narrow. Izuku and others were basically getting squished by every other student trying to make it through. Let us go, sister. We shall. Todoroki and Mina were completely unbothered by this issue, as they simply flew over the competition and were the first ones to make their way out the gate. Other students started making it out the gate. Todoroki had a way to deal with them as he lifted his hand as he summoned vines to hold the other students back. Present Mike sat in the commentator room, grinning ear to ear. Mummy man, are you ready for our live coverage and commentary? Much to Aizawa's dismay, he was the one stuck dealing with Mike as he sighed and rolled his eyes. Not voluntarily. Much to Todoroki's dismay, he noticed that a lot of people seemingly had gotten past it. Don't count us out. Todoroki. Izuku had burned away the vines with his fire. Bakugo simply ripped away the vines, as even if they stabbed him, it's not like it mattered. He would just regenerate. Momo used a rock to propel herself, and Shinso just nonchalantly jumped off people's heads. Todoroki watched as he had realized more people not just from his class actually made it through. This may be harder than I thought. Good thinking, staying 2 steps behind Todoroki. Now it's my turn. How about a taste of my killer dash? Wham! Mineta was smacked to the side by a robot, which caused him to roll to the side and bounce along like some cartoon character. But this had a revelation that they had added the faux villains from the entrance exam. Every obstacle course needs obstacles. Starting with Todoroki and Mina stopped, looking up in surprise as multiple robots towered over them. The first barrier. Robo Inferno. The other students who were just experiencing this were left shocked. They hadn't known the hero course students dealt with this. There had to be at least 10 of the 0-pointers. But it was impossible to tell as they could be covering other 0-pointers. So these are the faux villains they used for everyone else's test? Momo looked on as she was slightly surprised they even had the money to afford this many of them. To think this was the best they had. Todoroki was almost disappointed as he waved his hand. Chastiful glowed as it started to change. Chastiful, fourth form. The ground started to shake as a giant flower emerged from the ground, causing other students to back up. Whoa! Todoroki just summoned a massive flower in the middle of the track. The flower bud started to shine as he simply held his hand towards the robots. I expected more from this school, honestly. The flower bud bloomed as it started to shine a beam of light in the center, especially with dear old dad watching. He crushed his palm as the flower suddenly shot a giant beam of light, completely obliterating the entirety of the robots besides their head. Only a handful of students weren't blown back by the shockwave of such an attack. Once the beam of light dissipated, Todoroki proceeded to move on along with Mina, who was noticeably nervous. Her brother sure has gotten stronger during these 2 weeks. Mike and Aizawa's jaws hit the floor. What a shocking show of strength by Todoroki, completely destroying the robots for the others. However, Todoroki denied this very quickly. I didn't destroy all of them, just enough to make it so we got through. Their heads are still intact. As he said this, the students looked in shock and horror as the robot heads crashed onto the floor. Izuku coughed as the robots created a dust cloud from hitting the ground. So this is Todoroki's real power? MHA students got crushed under there? Izuku's eyes widened as he turned in horror. What? He looked on in horror at the heads, ready to completely destroy them to help anyone get out. Until Rhea, dead? As if. Class 1's Kirishima has been crushed. Are you alright? Kirishima, yeah. Thankfully it wasn't anyone else, or they most likely would have died. However, a Class B student with a metal hardening quirk burst out of another robot head. Class A is full of a bunch of jerks. Kirishima comedically teared up as he continued on. Mostly because he thought he was generic enough. As it is now, there's someone else who basically has the same quirk as him. This, however, didn't sit well with Izuku. He intentionally kept around the robot heads, just so he can use it as cover. He nearly killed someone. He clenched his fist as every student stopped and looked at him, sweating and concerned. They could feel the pressure from him, and it caused multiple students to nearly drop to their knees. Midoriya? Denki was really the only one to commentate, as once he saw Izuku's face again, the demon marking was visible. He silently raised his hand. Oink's flames burning in his hand as he jumped over the heads entirely, running across them and making it across. Now this'll be interesting. Other students followed in the steps of Izuku by jumping over the robot heads. Some had to navigate around the heads. The current leaders of the pack are overwhelmingly from Class A. Endeavor was also watching, as he also thought that Class B wasn't bad either. The only big difference between them and Class A is the lack of hesitation. They've been exposed to the outside world, up close and personal. They had that fear planted into them, and they're enduring it to become stronger. Aizawa looked down as he paused, clearing his voice a bit. Each have grown from that experience and forgotten how to hesitate. Izuku and the other sins were dead set on catching up to Todoroki and Mina, determined to not be made a fool of, especially after that declaration of war. So the first barrier was a piece of cake. How about the second? Fall and you're out. You gotta crawl across if you want to make it. They got a good look at it, as it seemed to be a bunch of rocks connected by tight ropes. This is the fall.
Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey today. I hope you enjoyed exploring the fascinating what-if scenario of Deku. If you found this video entertaining and thought-provoking, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to me and inspires me to bring you more captivating content in the future. Stay tuned for more exciting what-ifs coming your way. Until next time, take care, stay curious, and keep embracing the power of imagination. Goodbye everyone.